Comcast and Xfinity subscribers and on the city's YouTube channel online. Joanna, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Leidy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
Here.
Councilmember Whitkovich.
Here.
Councilmember Jaramillo.
Here.
Councilmember Kondo.
Here.
Councilmember Lukman Hiramasa.
Here.
Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Brown will be absent. Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Thank you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Manager Guyer, are there any responses to citizen inquiry?
Nothing this evening, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Nope. Okay. All right, we're going to begin tonight with an interview. Christopher Unger, will you join us, please? This is an interview for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'm honored today to be here before you for my application to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. My name is Christopher Unger. I am a native of Adams County. I was born in Brighton. I have deep ties to the community. I graduated from Thornton High School. I lived in the Thornton, Northglenn, Brighton area since, on and off since 1994. I even have deep connections to the park system in Northglenn. I grew up playing soccer at Northwest Open Spaces, been to all the parks. I even had my graduation party right across the street at E.B. Rains. So definitely deep connections. And now my wife and my 3-year-old daughter and I live in Northglenn near Northwest Open Spaces. I am an attorney in downtown Denver. I applied to be on the Parks Commission because of that deep connection and because I'm passionate about helping people and helping the city to better the Parks and Recreation Department in whatever way I can and being more involved in the community, especially as an attorney with my experience litigating issues and resolving disputes. This just made sense. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I can about my qualifications.
Okay. Council? Councilmember Kondo.
As a fellow Thornton High School graduate, I just couldn't help myself. Really am impressed by your credentials as well as your motivation to serve. It's very similar to my reasons for applying for this interim position. So thank you for offering your time. And it's the labor of love, I'm learning. It takes a lot of time. And but that sort of commitment from the citizens and residents is what we need. And I very much appreciate your willingness to jump in.
Absolutely. Thank you, and I appreciate that.
Councilmember Lukman Hiramasa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, same thing here, Christopher. Just thank you so much for stepping up, volunteering. I mean, this is what we need. The city needs volunteers like yourself, your expertise, to really, keep things going. So appreciate you stepping up and looking forward to seeing you on the Parks and Rec Board.
Thank you. Happy to help. Thank you.
Councilmember Goff.
I was just going to say thank you for applying and volunteering your time. We do appreciate it. We'll look forward to seeing and hearing more from the Parks Board with you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Whitkovich.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Christopher, thank you for applying. I'm sorry if I missed it or if you said it, but is this for the at-large spot or the Ward 4 spot?
It is for the at-large spot.
It is?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm the council ex officio for Parks and Rec, so I missed the last meeting when you were interviewed by them, I believe. But I'll look forward to the next one. And I am familiar with your employer since I am a recruiting coordinator over at Gordon and Reese.
Oh, yes.
So
We
it's a
just
small
lost one of our
world.
attorneys to you. So.
Yes. But I'm excited to have someone new on the Parks and Rec Board and look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thank you as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate you applying and your interview here, being here, and also all of your intertwining we've just talked about now. You're definitely in the right place, and I'm also a Thornton High School grad from Northglenn. I know they didn't bus in Ward 2 back in the day. Not my fault. So, yeah, appreciate you, stepping up for, representing City of Northglenn and bringing your expertise in law. That's fantastic, and I know you'll bring great perspective and represent for us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't need to repeat all of these wonderful things, but I do want to say welcome and thank you very much for your service on this board.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have two presentations tonight. Jenny Murphy is going to begin with the June Neighborhood Beautification Award. I love these.
Well, it's a sure sign of summer when I'm here, right?
Yeah.
Not because of my disposition, but because why I'm here. And it's because of all their beautiful yards. And it's nice to see folks here again, right? I'm really excited to have you all here this evening. So to get started, as many of you know, but just to refresh, the Northglenn Neighborhood Beautification Program was established 24 years ago. So next year we have our big celebration, right? To recognize residents who have done an outstanding job of making their homes and their yards beautiful. The city is divided into 13 separate areas, and volunteer judges in each of the areas select the winning yards. Nominations are received from residents and neighbors throughout our community. In June, July, and August, winners are chosen by our judges and receive a large lawn sign to display for the month. And then they also receive a small commemorative sign. Our city council recognizes the winners at the summer meetings, and they receive a framed certificate and that garden sign. Northglenn residents receive an award for the following categories: Yard of the Month, which is the most common. And then we also give out Waterwise Yard of the Month awards, which we'll probably see more of in July and August, because we had, pretty lush yards to start off our summer with. And the Waterwise award is in accordance with our citywide water conservation. Hopefully less turf, more water-tolerant plants, flowers, trees, and shrubs. Additional use of rock, mulch, and other landscaping material. So without further ado, let's get started. So our first winner is a Waterwise home, and it's located at 11897 Keogh Drive, and it's Tony and Michelle Alberico. And I don't believe they're here this evening, but that's a beautiful yard. Let's thank them. Next, we have a Yard of the Month at 10200 Melody Drive. Sharon Carlson and Lavelle Kirby. They have a beautiful yard. And I failed to ask you all to come and stand on the dais to shake hands with our residents.
Let's
Would
do
you
it.
like to do
Absolutely.
that? See, I'm out of practice, so you'll have to forgive me. And could I ask Sharon and Lavelle to please come up? You look so excited. Please come on up.
Lavelle just left.
Come on.
You gotta do it too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Come right over here and you're good.
Okay. This is so cool. We will find this one. These are after. Congratulations, your home is beautiful.
Thank you.
Really should see the back, all of them. You are.
You're gonna have to pose for a picture. She didn't see everybody who's watching. Now you know when it's your turn. Go shake hands, then we're gonna take a picture. Yeah.
So what did you want us to do?
Shake hands, and then we'll put you in the middle and take a picture.
We did, so do it again.
Nice job.
Thank you. Oh, perfect. Oh, my goodness.
I always come
And
around.
I don't know how much longer it's gonna be.
It's nice. It's all
Lovely
worth
yarn.
it.
I love your tree.
That's a cake. You find nothing more than a photo.
Okay. You really are out of practice.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, okay.
We don't have a front window.
Oh, maybe, well, I don't do it in the kitchen.
Perfect. All right, so we're gonna put you guys right in the middle.
Okay.
There you go.
Over here?
Yeah, right there. Jay, there we go. Yep, there you go. Good job. Nope, we got it. Okay. All right, everybody look this way. 1, 2, 3. Again. Last one. Thank
I
you.
couldn't look the way you were saying.
Thanks for coming, you guys. And you do have a beautiful yard. All right, next we have a Yard of the Month winner, 11174 Detroit Way, Tim and Becky Clark. And I'm not sure if they're here this evening, but let's give them a hand. 926 East 111th Place, Minnie and Bill Hampel.
Yay! Okay, you want us to slide over first?
Sure.
For a
I'll
picture?
hold your things.
Okay,
You can be counsel, then I'll.
don't let me get in
No,
your way.
well, I'll shake
I
your
have to
hand.
bend down, you know.
Hi, just say hello.
You're supposed to take your picture first.
I'm going to. Oh, I think we're shaking
Oh,
hands.
pictures later?
Pictures last.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I thought I had this all covered.
You did great.
This is all you need to have a beautiful yard. There's somebody like this, she tries, she constantly. Thank you so much. Okay, now over there.
Okay. There we go. All right. Yeah, Jay, you look more on that side. No, you're fine. Just stand straight up and they'll move. All right. If you four on this side could just go half a step that way. Not you, Mayor. The three behind you. There you go. Right there. Perfect. Perfect. Got everybody. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Again. I gotta look to make sure the signs are right up. They are. Don't worry. Last one. Everybody smile. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next, we have 11349 Downing Drive, Art and Margie Hansen. And I know they're here too.
Then I'll hand you your thing.
Thank
you. Window?
Okay. Nick, just a little bit that way. Oh, in now, that way. No, not you. Okay, we're good. All right. Everybody say cheese. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Last one, smile. Got it.
Thanks again, thanks again. Thank you. And the next yard of the month is 11802 Sherman Street, Cheryl Hewitt. Cheryl will not be here this evening, but she did say to thank you all. We have 11106 Eladi Street, and that's Wayne and Juliana Ibarra, and they're here this evening.
I'll take credit.
Alright, let's see. What happened? Oh, there you go. Good job, Kat. So, ready? 1, 2, 3. Again. Last one, everybody smile. Got it. Thanks.
Phew, okay, that took a year off my life there. Next we have 10006 Livingston Drive, Paige and Michael Papp, and I don't believe they're here this evening, but they have a beautiful yard. The next yard of the month is 1849 East 116th Avenue, Damon and Janice Peaker. Okay. Wouldn't you just love any of these beautiful homes? And we have 523 Leonard Lane, and that's really how you spell Stephanie's name, and Chuck Raines. I don't believe they were able to attend this evening, but another beautiful yard. And then we have 1491 West 102nd Place, and that's Freda Refrunzo, and she is not here this evening, but that's a beautiful yard too. (3183) East 105th Place, Bill and Teresa Young, and I know Bill's here this evening.
I'm taking credit for my wife's work. She's not flower bed. I have nothing to do with it, but she's really shy. So.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much, Bill. And tell Teresa.
Perfect. All right, are we ready? 1, 2, 3. Again. One more, smile. All right.
And that concludes the June Yard of the Month winners. That was fast, right? Thank you.
For the win.
I'm like,
Okay, our next presentation tonight is a really exciting development project Prost Brewing Company in Northglenn. So Debbie Tuttle, our Director of Economic Development, is here with a presentation.
Well, good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Is this an exciting night for Northglenn? Yay! So this project, as you know, is going to be a game changer in the revitalization of the marketplace. Prost will be an anchor tenant that will create a destination location for over 250,000 people each year. So this is going to be fun. David DeLine, president of Prost Brewery, is here tonight, and he'll provide a brief overview of Prost Brewing Company and the development project. Prost plans to construct a $25.6 million large-scale brewery in Beer Garden. Once at full production, they'll be hiring over 200 people. The Northglenn facility will serve as Prost corporate headquarters, their regional production facility, their distribution center, and their largest beer garden. We should be really proud to have it here in Northglenn. This facility will get national recognition as one of the most sustainable and technologically advanced breweries in the country. At full production, Prost will be the 5th largest craft brewery in the state. Staff work collaboratively with Hutensky Capital Partners, the property owners of the marketplace, Adams County, and the Colorado Office of Economic Development and International Trade to help fill the $6 million financial gap. Tonight, we are asking City Council's approval of CR 53 and 54 to provide performance-based incentives in the amount of $1.1 million for an SDIP incentive over 10 years and a BIZ for $514,800. And that's all outlined in your memo, so I won't go through that. With that, I'd like to have David DeLine come up and provide us with a presentation on Prost.
Thank you.
Up here, just one second.
And just advance it forward one slide.
There we go. Well, thank you everyone for having us again, and thank you for all your work to get to this point. My name is David DeLine. I'm the president of Prost Brewing Company. I don't know how many are familiar with Prost. I know some of you have heard this once before, but just a little bit of a background about who we are, what we do, before we get to the opportunity in Northglenn and then our financial ask to bring this project to Northglenn. First off, so who is Prost Brewing? Prost Brewing was founded in 2012 and is a Colorado craft brewery specializing in German-style beer. We do our best to honor heritage, honor tradition, and make the most authentic, cleanest, crisp-style German beers that we can. The company was really founded on 3 main pillars. The first is community-focused and sustainability-minded. And at the end of the day, this is why we all do it. German beer was created around the sense of community, around bringing people together, around just having that beer at the end of the day with a coworker, with a family, with a friend. And so this is really what we work towards from the very beginning. The second part of that is we also want to take care of our community and do as much as we can to provide sustainability and continued resources. I am a 7th generation Coloradoan, and I want to protect this state as much as I can. And so this is key to everything we do and the whole facility and design of what we do. The second one is German inspired, Colorado crafted. I think that's pretty straightforward. And then finally, we strive and cut no corners to make the best product we can. That's from our customer service, that's from the food, and most importantly, it's the style of beer. We're taking the best of everything we know and the best that we can to try and put forward the best product and cut no corners. There's really 3 aspects to our business. The first is our distribution channel. We're currently distributed in 5 states, being Colorado, Wyoming, Kansas, Nebraska, and just a little part of Missouri. The rest will come here pretty soon. But hopefully with a larger brewery and production capability, we're going to scale regionally south to Texas to Arizona, and then really to the upper Midwest into Chicago, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and then also looking towards the Northwest as well. We're doing about 12,000 barrels currently, which puts us in the top 10 for a Colorado craft brewery. So really proud of where we are and what we can do. The beer is selling like crazy thanks to all of our great customers. We just need to be able to make more now. The second part, and I'm going to get into this one a little bit later, and this is really the center of it, is it's brewing beer. We believe in making a world-class product, and that's what the opportunity here at Northglenn would allow us to do, is to focus on what we believe makes the best beer, which is sustainability, innovation despite our heritage and honor to tradition, making sure we just have the best equipment, flexibility, and drive a world-class facility. Now, this is the fun part of the business, our beer gardens. Like I said, German beer was founded around community. It's all still about community and bringing people together. And our beer gardens are where we try and achieve that through our curated beverage menu, what we believe is our world-class beer, a chef-driven food concept, but then really just the atmosphere, the beer garden tables, the games, the entertainment. This is where we try and bring people together and foster that connection, hopefully over a couple cold pilsners or Hefeweizen or whatever you guys prefer. We currently have locations in Denver. It's been around for about 10 years. Last October, we opened a Highlands Ranch store. It is just off to the races, already going above what our pro forma and our projections are. And we're tracking about 3,000 or 300,000 unique guests through that location already. And then we have an affiliate location up in Fort Collins, which my cousin actually runs. It's still Prost, it's still family, but my cousin runs that one directly. So again, at the end of the day, why Prost? We are a top 10 craft brewery, but we are the only top 10 craft brewery that can post numbers like that on our year over year growth rates. The brand is resonating, people are enjoying the beer, and it all starts with just the drinkability, the approachability, and that connection back to people. We are a nationally recognized brand due to who and what we are and our focus and rigidity on what we do. People from coast to coast know the name of Prost and know what it means in the German and craft beer community. But also with what we're hoping is really pretty broad regional distribution, we expect to drive a lot of traffic when we can build a showpiece destination type facility. And then finally, I keep harping on it, but this is truly what it is about to us. It's just that community-centered and community-focused beer garden where hopefully it can be a destination where anyone, regardless of if you drink beer, you want an iced tea, can come and just relax at the end of the day. And we're not trying to turn tables, force people out. We're trying to make a comfortable community space where people can hopefully come and hang out for a couple hours and just spend time. We want to drive that with weekly events, with movie nights, with bands, with German dancers, with Oktoberfest, and really try and create some fun atmosphere and hopefully some fun events to bring people to. All right, so that brings us all to, I guess, why we're here tonight, the opportunity up here at Northglenn. Through Hutinsky Capital Partners, the idea to build a world-class showpiece headquarters here at Northglenn became a possibility. We're specifically looking at the north end of the Northglenn Marketplace, the former Bed Bath & Beyond, Old Navy, and Atlanta Bread spaces. Through work and through conversations with them, we would like to create as Debbie said, really what we consider our forever home, a home we can grow into, a home that can be our home for the next 30 plus years, and really be the headquarters and distribution and heart of this business as we continue to scale it, not only across Colorado, but hopefully regionally as well. So just a few pictures. These are just some concept renderings of what we're looking at, but again, really just trying to create a statement and a showpiece on that north side. So it really all does start with the brewery. We are sparing no expense to make something that we believe would be world-class, cutting edge, and honestly, industry leading and industry standard in the craft beer community. With that, we're taking, like I said, the best of the old world, practices, traditions, decoction, endosperm mashing, all those things that you can talk to our brewers about one day, hopefully over a beer, but combine it with state-of-the-art equipment, but then also above average talented staff members that we train and we foster internally. We're trying to be one of the most environmentally friendly breweries in the country. We're putting in equipment that no breweries have in the United States yet. These are still really European-driven technologies because they're a little more on the forefront of this than we are. And truly, we're going to create something that has the flexibility to do everything, but specializes in what we do. Just some examples of what we're trying to do here. We've actually partnered with the oldest brew house manufacturer in the world by the name of Casper Schultz, and they're custom designing a showpiece brewery all by hand for us out of Bamberg, Germany. We're going to do recapture, endosperm mashing, decoction, open fermenter, so people can actually look in and see the process and see beer bubbling. Truly, this will be, while there might be one or two of these processes in the United States, there's not a brewery that has all of these under one house. So this will be unique, it will be a showpiece, and something that should attract from around the world. Like I said, sustainability and giving back to the community and doing our part is incredibly important to us as an ownership team and myself personally. These are just some of the initiatives that we're doing, but truly every part of this facility from top down has been designed with energy, water, natural resource conservation in mind. We are putting in full CO2 recapture. We recapture 100% of that byproduct generated from the process to recarbonate our beers with that. We're looking at solar power for the roof. Endosperm mashing is going to reduce our water consumption by about 15% compared to a typical brewery. Basically, we can fully remove the husk, which is the absorbent part of it, and so all that water loss is now saved. And then finally, we are putting in this really funny alien-looking spaceship device on the right. It's called the Shoko vacuum boil system. It uses a third the energy of a typical brew house by using that energy, truly creating a vacuum environment and recapturing all that energy, but also recapturing the water that would otherwise evaporate off, again, adding to about a 10% water savings from a traditional brewery. From the brewery side, and these numbers have grown as the scale and scope of this has all grown over the last 6 months. But just initially, we're expecting $7 million in stabilized sales, really kind of out of the brewery. These are wholesale sales. With that, we're looking at a little more than $1.5 million in annual payroll across 23 full-time employees. What's really important to us is to attract talent, to foster and grow our own talent, and we want to reward people for that. So there'll be profit sharing across the company at all levels. And with that, people will be looking at above average salaries for the county, but really particularly for the industry as well. Now, maybe the more fun side of the equation is our beer garden. Again, our beer gardens, as these pictures show, it's all about just connecting with people. It's games, it's 10-foot-long communal tables where people are forced to sit down together. We have 10,000 square feet of outdoor space where we love to host events, dachshund racings, dancers, all sorts of fun things we could do. The sky's the limit of what we could do, but just create a family-friendly, welcoming to all environment where people can just connect at the end of a long day. Again, our beer gardens are really founded on 4 to 5 key principles. It obviously starts with the beer, but we go beyond that, and we are a brew pub, so we have some wine, some liquor offerings, just to be accepting to all. From there, it goes to our chef-driven food menu. We worked with a really high culinary team out of Denver, owning a lot of the high-profile restaurants, and they custom designed a menu for us. And then from there, it goes into entertainment and unmatched hospitality. We have bands every Friday and Saturday at our Highlands Ranch location. We did a big Maybach Mayfest pig roast to celebrate spring with bands and dancers. We're just gearing up for a big Oktoberfest celebration this fall. And with this location, this would be bigger and on a grander scale, and we would just hope to build on that more. But at the end of the day, none of it works without hospitality and just that +1 attitude. And that's what our staff is there. And our beer garden director has made that a key principle of everything that we do. From the beer garden employment side, in numbers side, with the Northglenn project, we're looking at $5+ million in total sales on an annual basis. That relates to a little more than $1 million in annual payroll. And again, we're offering above average salaries even to our beer garden, line cooks, bartending staff. We call them operating partners, but more or less our general manager has the opportunity to make a salary of $120,000 plus. Our hourly workers will be making minimum $20 an hour, where right now the lowest take home from our Highlands Ranch store is about $26 an hour. And so the model is working, and we're trying to take care of staff, retain them, train them, and then foster them into higher positions. And so at every level, even if you're a line cook, there's that growth opportunity, and we're doing our part to try and take care of our staff. From a visitor standpoint, Debbie touched on this very briefly. We're really expecting this site to attract 300,000 plus visitors a year. Just our Highlands Ranch store is already on pace after 8 months from opening to hit that number or surpass it. And it doesn't have a world-class flagship brewery behind it that's all glassed in and 200 feet of glass so everyone can see every part of it. We truly believe we can pull people into the marketplace and become that catalyst at the North End. Draw people through it, bring people to Northglenn, really just for a good time at the end of the day. So through the beer garden, again, we want to put the brewery on display. We'll attract people from Germany. We'll attract people for Oktoberfest. We'll attract people for Great American Beer Fest. A lot of visitors will come just to see this because it is so unique to anything that is in the U.S. on this scale. It will stand out. And then finally, through the events, and then we have 3 to 4 different private party areas we could rope off. We think will really be a destination across the board. This is a little bit outdated, so I apologize, but this kind of gives you an idea of the scale of what we're looking at. There's about 54,000 square feet of brewery production area. Now, most of that is just big tanks holding beer. And what we're trying to do is really glass in the whole front, so invite people in to see the process, not stand behind walls, but really show it off. And then we have a huge glass wall separating our beer garden and our brewery, so people can watch the brew house and see the beer being made live as they're drinking a beer. Then that takes us over to about a 6,500 square foot beer garden with a full inside kitchen. We're looking at about 3,000 square feet of 4-season patio. And then surrounding that, kind of the green and the red brick is really just a true German beer garden. Put trees, put games, put things, just create that experience, create that ambiance where people want to stay. This is a brief rundown of our current development schedule and kind of updates of where we sit right now. Really, to summarize this slide, we're hoping to have phase 1, the brewery half of it, so we actually start brewing beer, completed by the end of the year, or worst case, mid-January. We're currently on track to hit that. And then we're currently in design process for phase 2, which we really call our beer garden. And looking at where we sit right now, we're targeting a grand opening in July to hit the peak summer months. So a little bit of kind of why Prost and why Northglenn and why we think the fit just makes so much sense. We really believe this will be a unique and experiential destination. Sorry, I was cheering too loud last night, I think, for the abs. My throat's a little raspy today. And with that, we don't think the draw will just be immediate. We truly think we can draw from 15, 30 minutes outside of what a typical radius would be due to the uniqueness of the project. We love Northglenn and we love the Northglenn marketplace and its location right on I-25. In 15 minutes, as you can kind of see from this map, it's amazing the amount of distance you can cover, and we think we can attract that distance and bring them in to the marketplace. We're going to be high quality at every level, from what the bathrooms look like, to the food, to the beer, to the space, to the visual. We want to provide that high quality image across the board. And with that, with our name and what we think we can build as a showpiece, we really think we can be a catalyst for the Northglenn marketplace, and particularly that North End, to go do other experiential and restaurant type businesses and attract them to that area. So to the numbers portion, as Debbie mentioned, we're looking at a little more than a $25 million investment. Here you can really see the breakouts. It is largely equipment heavy due to some of the state-of-art equipment we're getting, but also the construction costs just to the scale and the image we want to set. And with today's crazy prices have unfortunately continued to go up on us. But we're looking at, in total, a little more than $25 million. We have been working, and Hutinski Partners has helped with that a little bit through some generous leases and some TI opportunities. But really with that, and after you take out that portion, we're looking at a $24.1 million investment from the pro standpoint to be able to do this project. Now, that really gives us two options and two business plans we could pursue from here. The first is to continue on with what our original business plan was before the Northglenn opportunity came to us. Now, what that would entail is installing a smaller brew system in one of our existing locations and using those funds to go open more beer gardens. Those beer gardens have proven that they return and they cash flow, yielding about 26 to 30% on our original investment. At that point, 4 or 5 more beer gardens would add about 1,500 to 2,000 barrels of additional volume and really justify more of the scale to go build a production facility and a forever home and a headquarters. Now, when the opportunity with Northglenn first came to us, we have been looking for some time. And like I said, the fit just made sense to us up front. A brewery is a unique animal where you need kind of large, open, wide open back of house space, but you still want that retail front. And the center in Northglenn provides that perfect opportunity. The reason we're interested in Northglenn is it actually accelerates our original business plan, where after those 4 or 5 beer gardens, we would go build this facility. The opportunity is here to do it now, and it's here to do it at Northglenn. And so the business plan with Northglenn would be to forego some of those other beer garden opportunities in the near term and invest in creating that world-class production facility up front that we can then scale and go grow out-of-state distribution markets and then also continue to grow some beer gardens. But we would have to forego that in the near term to justify the cost. Unfortunately, the difference here, as you guys can see, there's quite a large difference in the return on capital. But with some help and with some assistance from the state, from the county, and hopefully from the city, we believe in the opportunity to create our headquarters, something we can be in for the rest of this. Like I said, born and raised Coloradoan, and we would love to see this project come to fruition. It is the end goal. It's just when we do it and what we do. And we would love to make this our home and our forever home. This is just a bit of a timeline of what those would look like. Again, I don't think anything we really need to dive into. So at the end of the day, we are very interested. We would like to make, it does accelerate our business plan. We would have to forego some other opportunities up front to make this happen. But it accelerates and advances the vision and the dream of creating a forever home in a community-focused destination. And that is my ask of you guys today. We would like to try and see this get close to a 15% return on capital to justify it. That gives us about a $6 million funding gap. And I asked, we've worked with the state and the county, and Debbie has been tremendously helpful across the board there. And hopefully with everyone's support, we can bring this to fruition.
Thank you, David. Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And having lived and worked in San Diego for the federal government, I understand the second and third order effects of having a craft brew industry. So I really appreciate and value what you're trying to accomplish. I hope you don't feel like this is Shark Tank, but I feel obligated to ask some questions so that I understand the economics.
Please do.
So I hope you don't mind me doing that. And actually, that's what I do in my real job anyhow. So I'm just trying to get a sense here. You had your 2 plans there on slide 26, whether it's expand your retail footprint or establish a corporate headquarters, manufacturing. I'm just trying to understand just the difference in your rate of return. And I'm assuming your goal is to hit a 15% internal rate of return. Is that kind of what you were conveying here earlier?
Correct.
So help me understand why you get a higher rate of return if you're going to open more retail outlets.
Why we would?
Yes.
Or why we would choose not to pursue that?
Well, I just want to understand, is it the delta as a result of CapEx, OpEx, both? What are we looking at here?
It's CapEx. It's the capital to go and do this. The returns on our beer garden, on average, our sales have been about $5 million. Yielding that 26 to 30% return off a pretty low initial capital investment. The cash flow in the brewery model, it works, but it's the upfront funding that makes that number so low.
Okay.
So it's really the high CapEx due to the state of, and the nature of this type of project.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm assuming that's the reason why you're asking for the 6 million
Correct.
kind of tax relief, is to be able to cover that working capital or CapEx.
Correct.
Okay, I understand.
It's why I wish we had unlimited funding. There is a limit to it, and so trying to justify it and get the required return
Sure.
is the reason for the ask.
Now, in this environment where the cost of materials are going up and things like that, clearly we feel all that pain. Do these estimates how do they take into account maybe if there's further increase in raw material costs and things like that?
There will be some variation, and unfortunately, there's variation every day. There's nothing we can do about that. We've worked really tight with vendors, and particularly from an equipment side, we have most of this on hold, so we have locked in those prices. The declining euro has also helped to offset some of the mitigation because we're buying a lot of this in euro. From the construction standpoint, it's give and take. Wood is finally coming way back down, but insulation is still at an all-time high, so they're kind of offsetting each other from the environment we're in. If I had a crystal ball, I would love to tell you where it was gonna go, but we're seeing some material from the construction standpoint go up, some drop, and from where we sit and really talking with our GC, we expect that to continue, and so we think those numbers are pretty close.
Okay, so some puts and takes and things like that.
There's gonna be some puts and takes. The equipment side is really pretty tight because we've pre-negotiated and we have that on hold. Construction materials, we haven't locked anything down, so until we lock it down, there will be variance, but we expect give and take right now.
Okay, great. I have one last question. I hope you'll indulge me, Madam Mayor. So, having toured the water plant, I'm happy to say that our water here in Northglenn, I think this is water out of the tap, is some of the best water. At least that's what Jason will tell you. So my question, obviously, is beer making takes a lot of water. Have we, and perhaps maybe this is a question for any of the staffers, have we accounted for that water consumption? Do we have the capacity to be able to support that, or are there contingencies if, say, we have a water shortfall?
Anyone? I don't think we have anybody here from. I know, I'm like, does anyone want to
Yes.
weigh in on that?
Did I make your heart just leap up into your chest? I know that was a tough question, but, water is a real salient issue, no pun intended.
So we have already kind of engaged the folks at Prost on this conversation, and we feel confident that the city has ample water supply to provide their water for their processes, and we are always continuing to buy and work on ways to expand the water supply that we have right now. So we're okay. This is not going to create additional impacts to our system. So
Okay.
we are happy and hope that they come and join us.
Great. Well, like I said, I enjoy beer. I think the first two words that I learned when I went to Germany for the first time was "Bier bitte," and that was about the only German I could speak. But thank you for coming, and we look forward to this development. I do personally.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jaramillo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I want to say that it's been probably the hardest secret to keep that Prost is. With all these negotiations going on, it's been tough to keep this, but the cat's out of the bag. So, my question I have would be, I'm sure Becky might be asking. I know she might know. As NURA, will NURA be providing any assistance? And we have Debbie. So.
Yes, NURA will be doing 25,000, so they'll do the two grants, the 12,500 and the 12,500. They're not ready for those grants, that's why they haven't been approved yet. But 12,500 are for the exterior improvements that we will match their, of course, your exterior improvements are much more than 12,500, as well as water or electrical and water, anything to do with that, the 12,500 will be covering that as well. As you probably recall, NURA actually provided incentives to HCP. So that's where they have $8 million invested, so HCP could revitalize it. So they are very much involved in this project, just in a different angle with the HCP. So HCP has been, will be providing about $1.6 million in tenant improvements and so forth. So it takes a village, and we were able to bring the village together and everybody in a cooperative manner, so we're able to get to that $6 million gap.
Okay, great. Yeah, just for our audience here and watching, NER is the Northglenn Urban Renewal Authority, and we're providing funding that's not coming from the city. So I just wanted to
Thank you. Yes.
put that,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say how excited I am about this project. We talk a lot of times up here on the dais about how important it is to put Northglenn on the map. And I feel really strongly that having Prost's headquarters here is going to help to do that. So I'm really excited about this project. I also really appreciated your overview of the jobs that you're going to be bringing to this community, because because the jobs that you're bringing pay really well. And I think that is exactly what this community needs. So I'm really excited at the opportunity to be able to partner with you. I know Councilmember Lukman Hiramasa and I held a ward meeting, about a month ago, and we had our residents try and guess what brewery might be coming to town. It was really hard to keep a secret, but it was, I think many of our residents may have heard through the grapevine that y'all were coming, but we've got a lot of excitement. And I know that Ward 4, particularly the area around the marketplace, is going to be just overjoyed at the opportunity to be able to walk somewhere and sit down and have a beer and play a patio game and just gather as a community. So really looking forward to working with you and seeing Prost open up in Northglenn.
Well, thank you. We're incredibly excited as well, and wouldn't be here if we weren't. So thank you.
So, David, this is your second time presenting to council, and as you were speaking tonight, I started writing down phrases that were coming to mind. So, high standards, the culture that you're building, the values that you hold, the compassionate leadership and inspiration, that all comes out. And that is why you are already so successful. But it's just so impressive. And I'm so excited for this project. This is going to be great. Welcome to our city. But I also wanted to take a minute and thank Debbie and your team.
Yeah.
Because I know there have been hours behind the scenes to help bring all the players together. So thank you so much, really. It's a village, all of our village. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Okay. All right, moving into public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment on any item not set for public hearing. Statements are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements must be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. Joanna, is anyone signed up tonight to speak to council?
Yes, we have one person signed up, Mark Bromley from Ward 3.
Okay, welcome.
Hi there, City Council. How are you doing today? I'm Mark Bromley from Ward 3 here. And anyways, I just want to reiterate that I think we should actually hold an election this year for 2022, Ward 3 again, because the 2021 election was stolen and was fraudulent in its intentions, that the Democrats actually ripped off that election and did not actually commit to their seat. And because of that, I do believe that the Ward 3 election should be actually done this year, because you still have plenty of time. And it only has to start up in August, pretty much. And there is basically 8 people that you can actually notify to run for that seat. So I don't see any problem with that, seeing that there's plenty of people already on the ballot this year in 2022. Just adding a little City of Northglenn Ward 3 election will not be a big problem at all. Anyway, and I just wanted to say that not doing so creates dishonor, disrespect of the voters of the City of Northglenn, also shows no integrity by the City Council by trying to avoid a Ward 3 election in 2022. There's nothing that says in the rules that it has to be in 2023, but I heard that the position was being held by Robert Kondo until 2025, and that's a big concern that I have because he was not elected by the voters of Northglenn for what's a nonpartisan seat. So nobody owns the seat. You can't say that this is the same rules that the House goes by or the Senate goes by in the state of Colorado. This is actually the city of Northglenn. It's nonpartisan, so nobody actually owns that seat. So it does have to go back up to election because the city council should not actually dictate who's on council. The voters should be actually voting for that. The city council's responsibility is for the city manager only, as far as appointing who's actually supposed to be in that job. But if you have a time to put up a person for an election after August for this November, you should do it in 2022. That's pretty much what I'm talking about, because when you do that, that kind of looks like the situation happening in Myanmar, where the Myanmar general and his military basically, well, I can't find it right now, but oh yeah, there it is. Well, apparently he got arrested after winning the election for using one of these, an Icon radio. That's basically what he used. A lot of these things are in boats, planes, police vehicles. It's widely used all over the world. That's what this is. And they took him out of office, and near 2,000 civilians had been killed because they were demanding equality in their elections, and they don't want them to be stolen or robbed of their rights. You know, I ran in 2021, I ran in 2020, and I ran in 2019. Democrats threw over $80,000 into the whole entire affair, and I thought that that was rather excessive just for Ward 3 alone. I was the only candidate that actually opposed any Democrats during the last election, so yeah, I guess you guys had a whole bunch of money to throw at me, like $6,000 to $10,000. And where you get that money, I know exactly where you get it. You get it from the taxpayers and you get it from the water rates through a bunch of little clubs and organizations you created like CC4CA, which is actually a lot of the members funded Wilford's campaign. And I got this last week. This is a lot of garbage sent in my mail by the Democrat Party trying to manipulate and control elections in the state of Colorado. That is a lot. I know how much these things cost because, well, I made my own flyers and stuff, and I actually researched a lot of this. And if you made it here in Colorado, you spent like 3 times more just to generate these things. And that amount of money comes up to quite a bit of taxpayers' resources, water rate resources, state resources. It's why the Democrats at the state legislature in 2021 created a bunch of legislation that led to inflation, and that's why you have so much money to throw into your spending and your little mechanism, your little machine right there, and even make political yard signs in the city of Northglenn. Now, some of those people in the city of Northglenn that were taken advantage of by the city are actually elderly and at risk, and I think it was wrong for the city of Northglenn to take advantage of them in such a way and then go and spend tax and water rate money to buy political yard signs and other labeling just for their political agenda here on the city council. Now, I know that there's a lot of
Thank you, Mr. Bromley. Your
Democrat
5 minutes
legislation and all that.
has come to an end.
Well, thanks. All right.
Thank you very much.
Well, you have a great day.
I am going to ask our city attorney to weigh in really quickly because, Mr. Bromley, you've been here twice with the same message. So I want to make sure that we're clearly communicating the charter language because I do believe that it is integrity that leads us to follow our charter. So could you explain the election piece for me, please?
Yes, 2 things. Certainly, Section 3.8 of the charter has the process for filling of vacancies, which is the process the city council utilized in appointing Councilmember Kondo. And secondly, our municipal elections by charter under Section 2.3 are in every odd-numbered year. So we would not have an election in November of this year for a council election. That would be in November of every odd-number year pursuant to Section 2.3 of our charter, which is, of course, the city's constitution as it relates to matters of local concern.
So we are following our charter. And then just for the residents, I want to make sure everyone is clear that it is not allowed, nor do we use water rates for campaigns. Just want to make sure that's clear. Okay. Moving into council communications, I'm going to start with Ward 1. Councilmember Walker, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Ms. Ash and I held the group grub and local grub towards the beginning of this month, and quite a few items were brought up, but there's two that I would like to bring to council's attention for possible discussion at another time. A resident, and I'd be looking to get more input from people like our park ranger and the Parks and Rec Board, but we want to discuss like the mobility options that people have for electric scooters to use in our park. And so it's with our population aging, it may be time for us to look at what other cities do, maybe re-examine that policy. So I was hoping to get consensus with the city council that we take a look at it at a study session and possibly bring that some of those other options and opinions in also.
Yeah, so I was going to support your request because it's something that's been coming up in Ward 4 as well, people calling and asking questions. So I think it would be
From ours
wonderful.
as well, our meeting this last Saturday, someone brought that.
Yeah, sounds like it's a need. Do it.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And the other one was, another resident brought up the crossing for the Greenway pathway across Irma Drive. It is, well, it's anybody's guess kind of where it's at. It's a very busy street, industrial street. And I think it's time we talk about it and we move forward with just some opinions from Kent and everybody. So could I have consensus for that too, that we discuss that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's come up a lot.
All right, Madam Mayor, that is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Wikovich?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Walker, for bringing those things up. Just a few things I want to mention. On June 14th, I attended the North Metro Fire Rescue District reopening of Station 62. It's really exciting. Jenny is here. She was there, of course. I think the board and the district really appreciates our support, and we had a lot of us there that day, and so I was really happy to be there and to support them as well. And then later that evening, I attended the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. I hear from them that the ordinance draft concerning historic districts should be coming to the commission in July, and then hopefully soon thereafter, it'll be coming to us for consideration. And also, I think I've mentioned this before, but the commission wanted me to bring it up again. We have the old Garland Center sign that was out there. We have that, and we also have this old door, and forgive me, I can't remember what it's from, but there is a desire by the commission that those pieces somehow be incorporated into our new city hall. I know at time we had kind of talked about like a small little museum, kind of like we have at the Justice Center. Just want to put that in everybody's minds. I'll try to bring it up again, try to remember to bring it up again when we're actually talking about the design, but that's something that's constantly brought up by them. And then with some fellow council members, I attended the Colorado Municipal League's 100th Annual Conference from June 21st to June 24th, and it was a really great time, learned a whole lot. Attended sessions on aging, homelessness, and of course our staff presentation on crew and co-responders. So thank you so much, Chief May, for that. I think people were really impressed. We got a lot of great questions, and I was really proud to listen to that. And met all kinds of local leaders that I had not met before. So it was a very successful conference. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Councilmember Jaramillo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also attended the reopening of the fire department on Huron. It was great to see, and all the heroes out, that put their lives on the line for us. I have a couple of family members who are on the fire department for Denver and Brighton, so I have a great respect for the work that they do and in the calls that they answer, especially during the Marshall Fire. So it was great meeting everybody and seeing their facility, which is fantastic. They really deserve everything that they have now. So it's been a long time coming. And I also attended CML, the 100th anniversary. It was a great opportunity to meet different leaders in municipalities, learn about what issues are happening in their community, what they're doing about it, and also letting them know what Northglenn's doing about our issues. And I think that we have a lot more people looking at Northglenn as a model to follow. So that's most of it. And I could go on and on. I picked up this notebook a few days ago when I first got there, and I took copious notes, like front and back, and anywhere from Denver City Council to our governor to meeting of the minds, which dealt with water rights, which we'll be talking about later. So it's like it's all great to learn about what's happening across the state and understanding how different each one of our communities are, from the rural to the mountains to the urban, suburban. We all have different issues, but we also have a lot that we can learn from each other. And that brings me to a couple quotes. This one's from Aristotle: "A partnership of all cities for the betterment of life, or citizens of, no, a partnership of all citizens for the betterment of life, promoting best and fullest life in collective wisdom, and benefit ourselves and constituents." I put that in there because he's a different term. "And the prosperity of our cities and states, empowering and to improve, and we are all better together." So I kind of was listening to everybody talking, and I was trying to take notes verbatim, which is very difficult, but I learned a great amount, and it really inspired me to become an even better leader for Northglenn. Thank you.
Councilmember Gah.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. June 15th, I attended the volunteer picnic, and it was great to see so many people out there giving me the opportunity to thank them. And we had several other council members there as well. So if you didn't make it and you were a volunteer, I want to say thank you. We can't do half of what we do without volunteers. And then June 18th, I did work at a Northglenn table at the Adams County Pride Festival. And it was like 98 degrees or something, very warm. But that was an interesting experience, a little bit different than the one we had in our own community last year. But I think a lot of people attended. I'm waiting to hear some numbers. I think it was pretty successful. Then on June 21st, we had the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board meeting, the DICE board. And one of the things that I was asked there, we're trying to figure out some better ways to interact with city council, or they are to interact with city council, and they ask that I remind the city council that the DICE board can help with policy, proclamations, and communications. So if there's anything that we, have any kind of a question or concern about, that there are a lot of good volunteers on that board that would be happy to give some input. The last thing was this last Saturday, we had a Ward 3 meeting, and it was a chance for our Ward 3 residents to meet the new council member, and I'm going to let him really talk more about that. But we had a lot of good questions, a very lengthy discussion on safety concerns in the city. So, and the mobility, the different kind of vehicles on the trails was one of the things that did come up in that. So that's all I have for now, so thank you.
Great. Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as the junior member on this board here on this group, I continue with my efforts to really engage and understand members of Heather's staff. Between the last meeting and this meeting, I did have a closure meeting, if you will, with Chief May and Deputy Chief Darlin, who I totally mispronounced his name at the Ward 3 meeting. But really, it was just to share some of the observations from my ride-along. And it was not the Kevin Hart style of ride-along, if you're familiar with that movie. But it was really an eye-opener as to some of the things, and I've talked about that on previous occasions, but certainly I really feel strongly that other council members should go, because when you step into the shoes of being a police officer, the adrenaline level is up. I'll tell you, after that ride-along, even though I'm not Kevin Hart, I was mentally tired because of the full range of things that go on. And I believe residents also have that opportunity to do that if you're part of the Citizens Police Academy. The other thing, of course, is I'd like to give a shout out to Amanda, Brooke, Diana, Chief, Deputy Chief, and then also Susan for all that they did to support the Ward 3 meeting. And I'm just going to hit some high points. I hope you don't mind. And Jay, you should not be embarrassed about taking notes. I also take notes as well. But we did talk about summer safety, which of course covers a whole litany of things, whether you're talking about fireworks, which was a very hot topic. We did talk about the trails, which was expressed previously. I would say the other thing that is of concern, I suppose. I mean, obviously, we have very beautiful public areas, but one woman was very passionate about geese poop. And so I'm not proposing that we talk about it in a study session, but, clearly, clearly there's a lot, that's a hot button topic.
Yeah.
And, but one last thing, Madam Mayor, and that was, in your absence, I attended the DRCOG meeting. It stands for Denver Regional Council of Governments, and this is all the major cities and county government agencies, if you will, all throughout the Front Range. And I will tell you, that was a very eye-opening process. It's a non-political sort of way of setting up process and criteria for awarding federal grants. So I was very lucky to have had that opportunity. The trick is being a good grant writer. So if you've been in academia, which Dr. Goff has, you know how to write good grants and how to get money out of the government. And that's basically the key to success, is learning how to master that. So as a small city, the little city that can, we're able to write good, effective grants to be able to get that money being doled out by the government. So again, continue to learn more, but I thought I'd just share that with this group.
Thank you. Councilmember Lukman-Hiramasa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let's see, on June 14th, I attended North Metro Fire Rescue District's open house, Station 62, along with some fellow council members. And I just want to thank our first responders for the sacrifices that they make and everything that they do to keep us safe. A couple of months ago, North Metro came to my house and literally saved my mother's life, so I'm very grateful to them. It was really outstanding to see the improvements that they've made and the renovations that they've made. Everyone there deserves that. It increases their safety. There's different measures that they've taken to make sure they're comfortable for those hard shifts that they take. And all of that is pretty important, so I want to say thank you. It was an honor to attend that. On June 15th, I attended the Volunteer Appreciation Dinner at E.B. Rains. And again, as we saw our newest volunteer in the Parks and Rec Board, the city depends on volunteers, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So to all of the volunteers, thank you. We need you to keep attending and keeping the city running, and appreciate your input and expertise. And then the last thing, I attended the CML conference, the Colorado Municipal League, along with fellow council members. And that was just an incredible experience. The opportunity to interact with other leaders in our cities is so extremely important. I got to meet a lot of other local leaders in adjacent municipalities, as well as others that are further out in Colorado. And, as we're moving towards more regional collaboration, I think those kinds of connections are extremely important. There's a lot of things that we completely understand we cannot get done as a small city alone. So I think making those connections was one of the biggest takeaways that I got from there, as well as seeing and attending some of those conferences and understanding that a lot of the steps that are being taken to move other cities forward, we're taking here in Northglenn already. We are absolutely pioneers. And with that, I would love to give a shout out to Chief, to our crew program manager, Jessica Hulse, to Brooke, our Director of Planning and Development, and our municipal judge, and the incredible work that they have done to further, the collaboration that is happening right now in terms of the crisis response unit. And I'm so proud of us as council supporting that as well. They literally blew it out of the park at the CML conference. And out of all the sessions I attended, that was the one that had the most questions from local leaders and the most interaction because of the outstanding work that is being done. And of course, to our city manager, Heather Geyer, as well. She got a huge shout out. So that is all I have to say. It was an incredible experience, and I was pretty proud to be there with my fellow council members. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 4 items to report on very briefly. I also was pleased to attend the North Metro Fire Station 62 reopening. That facility is absolutely phenomenal. The deputy chief gave me a tour, and so I got to see the living spaces for the firefighters where they hang out, they wait for a call. Also got to take a look at their individual bedrooms and individual showers, and it's just, they did a phenomenal job making sure that our first responders are safe and comfortable while they're doing their jobs. So huge congratulations to them on opening a beautiful facility and not impacting any of their calls while they did the renovation. Second, I wanted to highlight the volunteer appreciation dinner. I had the honor of representing Mayor Leidy and being able to speak. And I just wanted to share a couple of statistics with you all. So when we were honoring our volunteers at the dinner, we honored volunteers giving approximately 12,000 hours of time to serve our community every year, which is truly extraordinary and speaks to the community that we have here. And volunteers do everything from helping us keep our city clean, to preserving our history, to supporting their neighbors, and to helping to inform City Council about a variety of issues that come before us. So thank you to all of our volunteers who show up time and time again to support this community. And a huge shout out to Jenny Murphy for all of your work coordinating these volunteers, making sure that they've got things to do, and just spreading friendship and kindness along the way. We're so lucky to have you on our team. All right, next thing is, I mentioned during the Prost Brewing presentation that Councilmember Lukman Hiromasa and I had everybody guess at our last ward meeting what brewery was coming to town. And we grabbed a couple of different beers from local breweries and sat them up, and then everybody got to fill out a sheet and tell us who they are and what brewery they think is coming to town. So now that it's official and it's announced and it's out there that Prost is coming to Northglenn, I wanted us to go ahead and do our drawing to find out which Ward 4 board meeting participant is going to win a 6-pack of beer. So, yeah. So I'm going to ask my partner here to draw the winner. Yeah. I did sort it out so we won't get somebody who had said that it's a different brewery. These have all answered correctly.
We have Bob Andreessen.
Bob Andreessen. All right. Well, we will be reaching out to Bob to make sure that he has a little porch prize. So with that, the last thing I wanted to highlight for council is that this 4th of July, the Rotary Club is going to be hosting their Duck Derby. And that'll be happening on the 4th of July celebration. But every year, in addition to the large duck derby, they also do a corporate duck race. And these are larger ducks that people can buy for $100 and dress up, and they'll do a whole competition for who's the best dressed duck, and then they'll go on a race. So I am, as of today, Rosie Gardner roped me into buying a duck, as Rosie does. And I wanted to challenge all of you, my council colleagues, to buy a duck and to get your duck decorated and to race your duck. So challenge is out there, and I hope you all will accept. And with that, I just want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July, encourage you to not do the fireworks thing because nobody needs that, and go Avs.
Yes. Those are the abs.
Everyone had so many amazing things to share. So I'm going to talk fast and I'm going to go through because I've been gone a minute, and it was a lot of learning took place. So a couple conferences and also some recharging. There's a little vacation in the middle. So I'm back at it. U.S. Conference of Mayors, first of all, was an amazing opportunity to connect with other mayors from across the country. The theme was clean air and sustainability. You could hear that repeatedly. A lot of the ideas, because big cities and little cities were represented. Some of the ideas were large, right? Like a Denver metro area idea. But one of the ideas I wanted to elevate for council was an idea that Cleveland is putting forward, which is an electric lawnmower kind of trade-in thing. And I don't know how it works exactly. So I think we'd have to flesh it out. But essentially residents could turn in their gas mower for, some credit to purchase an electric one. So that seemed like a very small city idea that could really make a difference in Northglenn. I know, simple reminders of not mowing between like 10 and 2 is simple, and I don't know that all of our residents know that because sometimes we just mow when we have time. I had an older mower, and man, the smog that came out of that was just awful, and it was just very visible. But it's something I wanted us to consider if council was willing to look at that. It's a small project, so I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Yeah,
Should we
I
look
think
at
we should
that?
definitely look
Cool.
at it.
Okay, thank you. So that was a small thing. Yes, our staff was totally amazing at CML. It was very nice to be up there. They presented on crew. It's been mentioned, actually, you said it very eloquently, so I won't repeat it. But one of the things that I want residents to know is that when council members go to conferences, especially the Colorado Municipal League, it's an opportunity for us to connect with our neighbors that we don't always have, right? We sit down with Westminster, we sit down with Wheat Ridge, we sit down with cities of our size, and we're able to share ideas and kind of spitball things like, how are you writing that? And what are you doing? And making sure that we're tackling things the most efficiently. And so, but it's also really inspiring. But yes, our team was probably the best. I mean, they were just so amazing. So really, everyone should be proud of them. Couple other things. Oh, one of the things I did want to highlight was Mayor Folsom from Superior spoke, and he sort of chronicled his day of the Marshall Fire. And I mean, people were in tears. It was so beautifully shared, but he sent everybody a very clear message, which is if you are a homeowner, you need to double check that you are not underinsured. And that was also a message from the Louisville mayor at our Metro Mayor's Caucus, is even though the fire was 6 months ago and the rest of us have continued on with our lives, 1,000 people, 1,000 families are not doing that, and they are still struggling. And you've probably seen some of those stories on the news, but Mayor Folsom really described not only what they learned as a city about how prepared they were or not for an event like that, but also how unprepared the residents were with their coverage for homeowners insurance. So he really put out this loud call to action. Call your insurance agent, look at your coverage, make sure that you're not underinsured. And so I wanted to make sure that I carried that forward. And then, let's see what else. Oh, the Metro Mayor's Caucus met. We had our annual retreat in the middle of all of this, and this came up again, the homeowners insurance situation. At the retreat, my team wouldn't be surprised that I was in charge of all the team building activities. We had a great time. But then it also propelled us to our Metro Mayor's Day of Service at A Precious Child. And so that is an organization that supports Northglenn residents, but it also was instrumental in supporting the victims of the fire. So to have the opportunity with my fellow mayors to go and serve and help that organization, I learned a ton about it. They're always taking volunteers. If you're ever wondering, they have volunteer opportunities for children. And I know some parents like to do that, and it's hard to find places that you can take children under 18. So they do. They take about 4,000 pounds of donations per day, and their team sorts through it, and they only keep the most high-quality items because they display them in a store. Their values are so incredible, and they really focus on making sure that their clients have dignity. And it's just a lovely organization. So it's A Precious Child. Google it, check it out. And it actually might be a really fun day of service for council, because I think everyone should experience that and spend time with them and get a tour from their staff, because it's pretty remarkable. And then if you're cleaning out closets, consider taking them there first. Oh, one of the biggest things, because it keeps fabric out of the landfill, is if they discard an item that was donated because it was torn or stained, they have a process where they bundle it and they recycle the fabric. And so it doesn't go into the landfill. It doesn't get just tossed in the trash instead. So that was another cool thing. Final thing is I had a quick question, because as I drove here, I happened to notice that not all of our street signs have been replaced. And I wasn't quite sure where we were in that. I know we had a real, big burst of sign changes, and then there's some that just haven't been finished.
Kent, do you have an update on where we're at with our street signs, or is this something we need to get back to council on?
You can get back to me. I was just
Talking
wondering.
about the ones on the overhead on the main streets?
Yeah,
those
the
are
big ones.
Those are the huge ones that we're going through the traffic replacement of the cameras. And then after we do that, we'll
Okay.
circle back. Those are large signs that we previously didn't have a bucket truck until last year. So
Okay.
they're working on that, and that'll be later this summer.
Okay. It wasn't a main street, though. It was just a neighborhood street. Some of them still have the old ones. I wasn't paying attention. I can't even tell you which one. I just didn't know.
We'll double check.
I'll double check
yeah.
on that, but
Okay.
those should be cleared.
Okay.
We'll check.
Awesome. Thanks. And that is all I had. I know it was a bunch. Joanna, how are you?
I am well, thank you, Mayor. I have nothing tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
City Manager Guyer?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. One quick item for you. I forwarded an email invitation to all of you just a little while ago. The Rocky Mountain Partnership, or Strive Together, is hosting the first meeting of the Regional Opioid Council. This is an organizational meeting. They have an initial group of representatives, but this is really an opportunity where we'll first hear what the next steps are for the regional council. So Chief May and I plan to attend. All of you are welcome to attend as well. This is a virtual meeting, so you just need to simply RSVP using that link that was included in the text of the email that I forwarded to you. For those of you who cannot attend, what we'll do is plan to add a discussion item at a future meeting so we can get you updated on what the plans are for the region and use of those opioid settlement funding dollars. And that's all I have tonight.
Okay. City Attorney Hoffman, how are you? Welcome back. I mean, I haven't seen you since you were gone.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. Since I unfortunately missed the CML conference for the first time in over 20 years, I don't have anything to report.
Okay. Okay, moving into the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval. Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Find my vote.
No, like, that's it.
Thanks.
Okay, I'll close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Great, okay. We have public hearings tonight. So I'm going to get started. I will now open the public hearing on the proposed enhanced sales tax incentive program agreement with Prost Brewery Company LLC, doing business as Prost Brewing Company and Beer Garden. Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against the proposed agreement? Okay. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak about the agreement? You can unmute yourself by pressing *6. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Now we're going to move into CB 1986. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A bill for a special ordinance rezoning from commercial general to mixed-use corridor, certain real property with an address of 555 West 112th Avenue, City of Northglenn, County of Adams, State of Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the City of Northglenn.
I will now open the public hearing on the application for the rezoning of the property at 555 West 112th Avenue from commercial general to mixed-use corridor. The Northglenn City Council has jurisdiction to conduct this hearing under the applicable provisions of its Home Rule Charter and Chapters 3 and 11 of the Northglenn Municipal Code. The procedure to be followed in this case will be as follows. City staff will give a brief outline of the nature of the application. The applicant may then present any evidence in support of the application. All persons opposed to the application shall then be entitled to present evidence. Any other interested person shall be entitled to present public comment or evidence. The applicant may then present any rebuttal evidence. Council members may ask questions of the staff. the applicant, and the public who testify. All witnesses will be placed under oath by the city clerk and may be cross-examined by any party, counsel for any party, or the members of city council. Are there any objections to the jurisdiction of the city council or to the form or substance of these proceedings? Hearing none, staff will give a brief outline. Brooke, hello.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will try to be as brief as I can through a rezoning application.
Okay.
So we're here tonight to consider Council Bill 1986 regarding the rezone of 555 West 112th Avenue from general commercial to mixed use corridor. The applicant is Tramwell Crow Residential. The property is currently under contract, and they're making the request on behalf of the property owner. Here is a vicinity map. The little red star is where we're talking about. You may recognize this as the former school. And for those who have been around for a while, also the MCI call center. Did I get that right? No?
No.
What was the call center? Oh, Alliance Data. I thought it was MCI. And Staples after that. See, I thought I was going to be clever, and there you go. All right. So this is a picture of the aerial for it. This is the address. This is some of the basic statistics. 8.6 acres, 65,000 square feet. Known as Global Village Academy was the last known use. So with that, as I mentioned, the zoning, want to talk about the adjacent properties, multifamily planned development, housing to the north, multifamily to the east, the city's open space to the south. There have been significant changes, including commercial development to the west, which you will all recognize on the corner. Also, the City of Northglenn open space property is posed for redevelopment as the Odell Berry Park. And so by redevelopment is the reimagining of that space into an active public space. This is just a surrounding area of the zoning. One thing I do want to point out is this is MS1 here. And I would argue that this planned development area here is also consistent with that, but it was done as a planned development because we didn't have the proper zoning at the time that was developed. So it went under as a PD, but would more or less reflect the same type of zoning as an MS1. I only bring that up just for context to give you more of an idea of what the surrounding uses are and how they reflect their compatibility. And as was mentioned in the previous slide, we have commercial here, and this is the parcel site, and then this is the future. Right here is the future park space. There we go. So proper notification was done for this public hearing. And I'll jump into the case analysis. So as we mentioned in a previous public hearing, this is one of the things that we do is review this application against the comprehensive plan for consistency. And within that regard, this is property is within an area of change identified as future mixed use, medium intensity. And interestingly enough, when we had this comprehensive plan, we did not have a mixed use intensity zoning district like we do now, which is mixed use corridor. So I bring that up only because that's essentially one of the things that we did as we were deploying the UDO was to make the recommendations for zoning characteristics consistent with the comp plan that we have adopted. So with that, the rezone would encourage redevelopment that promotes active streetscapes and walkability. Rezone would ensure compatibility with surrounding commercial and residential uses. The Plan Commission and City Staff Analysis. Area of change, large underutilized property that lacks street activation and walkability. Recent changes in the area have occurred. The rezoning would encourage development of both diverse housing types and commercial spaces. The mixed corridor commercial district would be consistent with the recent rezoning of the Civic Center site, which is what we have here for this particular parcel. Also along Community Center Drive, and then through the initial review of the rezone application, Public Works has confirmed that there is adequate services to serve the potential redevelopment of the property. This is just a breakdown of the existing yard and bulk requirements for this zoning district. And then I'll jump to the recommendation. So I will mention that here where it says staff provided a thorough analysis on criteria, page 4 and 5 of the Plan Commission staff report, that's 5 and 6 of your package, so for reference. Also, the purpose of the rezoning is to make amendments to the zoning map to reflect the change conditions to advance the welfare of Northglenn. So the Plan Commission reviewed on May 17th. They voted 7-0 unanimously Staff recommends approval of Council Bill 1890, or 1986 for the property. And then on the administration, you have three options tonight. Approve the request with or without conditions or stipulations, deny the request for reasons stated by identifying where the request does not meet the approval criteria, or table the request for further consideration. Also want to point out on next steps that this will be a major site plan, which means that it will be a formal public hearing before the Planning Commission. Also, there will be a subdivision associated with this that will likely result in public infrastructure. That portion of the application will come to City Council to affirm the subdivision improvement agreement. So you will have an opportunity to consider a portion of the application in this case. And with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Councilmember Goff.
Thank you. This is probably too early in the process, but it might be better just to put it out there now instead of coming back. When the lot was kind of an issue, and if you're going to do some kind of high density stuff here, I'm just wondering, or is there a
but we'll closely look at that through the
Don't see any more hands right now. So who is here to provide? Yes.
Do we want to, do we do the applicant next, or do we take public?
I have all those in.
Superior, I'm actually a Superior resident, and we had friends who lost homes. And separate from my testimony, I just wanted to say thank you, because the small towns that rallied around our little town was extremely helpful. Brief, as Brooke mentioned, we'll go through a major site plan with a lot of detail about what building looks like, how it feels, how it interacts with traffic, and so on and so forth. I should introduce myself. My name is Jarvie Worcester. I'm the managing director for Trammell Residential. I represent our Mountain States division, which is largely the Denver in and around this area. So very refreshing working with Brooke's team and staff. It's very uncommon. We work in a lot of other municipalities where access to and feedback and questions about code apartments. Probably nobody in Colorado has built more apartments in the Denver metro area since 2000 than our firm has. This one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for being here. I do have a question for you. Don't go far. Can you tell us about when you're thinking about some of your multifamily units that are apartments, what's the average rent?
It really ranges. And on this project, it's a little bit early considering we're making sure that we can build multifamily. One thing that we have kicked around conceptually for this project is a range of units. Everything from studios up to 3 bedrooms, and we also are contemplating some for-rent townhome product, which we think really kind of reaches to a broad array of residents from single individuals have larger children. So a little bit from an exact price range. A bit all over the place, and we're trying to dig into the different mix or studios up through 3 bedrooms. And
Just a little more.
Still in the works. We have a portfolio of a little bit of both. I think, and right, wrong, or indifferent, workforce housing is classified differently in Boulder as it is into Aurora. What I would tell you is we are largely a kind of luxury is also a subjective term, but we are largely what we could consider a Class A market rate. Hard.
Very early and perhaps speculative, but you intend on building
Preliminarily planning 5 stories.
5-story? Okay.
But it's not.
Well, I'm a short.
No. I don't see any more. Anyone else who wants to provide testimony in support of this application? Okay. Opposed to the application are entitled to present. That would like to oppose the application. I think we do. Well, I think we don't have rebuttal. Okay. Well, I think we're good. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay. CB 1986, zone of to mixed use.
So after we've gone through rezoning, I assume that they'll have to submit a site plan to the planning commission, and then the planning commission will either approve or deny, and then they'll be able to move out into the building phase. It won't come before council again, correct?
So one of the things that will likely come back before council is that this will also require a subdivision. And so with that, there'll likely be a subdivision improvement agreement, and that portion of the application may come back to you, so.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
All right, please open the vote.
The vote is open. I will close that vote, and CB 1986 on second reading passes unanimously.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay, moving into ordinances on first reading, CB 1987. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A bill for an ordinance amending the Northglenn Municipal Code by the addition thereto of a new Article 10 of Chapter 7 entitled Vehicular Public Nuisances pertaining to civil abatement of vehicular public nuisances.
Move for approval.
Seconded.
Deputy Police Chief Randall Darlin is here to provide a summary. Hello.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. So on June 13th, I brought a discussion item in front of council to discuss the vehicle public nuisance ordinance and the potential of passing this ordinance in the city of Northglenn. Several of our counterparts, Aurora, Denver, Colorado Springs, and Greenwood Village have ordinances similar to this. And the focus of the ordinance is really to address the significant public safety issue of street racing and eluding of our police officers. These two issues are increasing in Northglenn. The data supports that they're increasing in Northglenn and the entire Colorado metro area. Our eluding incidents have over doubled in the last 3 years. And our street racing issues have met not just Northglenn, but the entire Colorado and Denver metro area. We've now created a task force in the metro area to enforce and to try to interject ourselves into these street racing incidents. The level of public safety that is at risk with these street racing incidents is incredible. The speeds, the disregard for public safety, complete disregard for public safety on our roadways has shown itself, as well as the violence that has sometimes been associated with these street racing incidents in other communities, where we're seeing shots fired calls, actual shooting incidents, and events that large group gatherings tend to inflict conflict between the groups and have, in some cases, ended up in violence within the communities where they are. These are incredibly mobile groups, right? They operate off of social media. They function in a way where They attend these private groups on social media. There are quick messages as to where to gather, and the groups travel in large numbers to and from these locations throughout our municipality and all the adjoining municipalities, Thornton, Westminster, all the way down to Colorado Springs. Literally, we have seen these incidents start down in the Springs and move themselves north all the way into Adams County during a single event or a single day of events that have begun at 4 o'clock in the evening and run through the late hours of the weekends on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. The primary enforcement strategy has been this task force. No one jurisdiction really has the assets and resources that are necessary to truly address the issues. The successes we have seen have been group enforcement strategies where we're working as in teams, where we're using intelligence led policing by monitoring social medias, using helicopters, and that type of an enforcement strategy. What this ordinance brings to Northglenn is the ability for us to actually affect within our community the opportunity to provide a remedy to our courts when this kind of conduct is engaged in the city of Northglenn. With our unwillingness to risk public safety to pursue these offenders, identifying these cars in a quick and easy fashion by make, model, color, license plate, we're taking that risk to the public safety out of the mix. We don't have to try to pursue to apprehend these individuals. We don't have to put the public at additional risk. We already know the bad guy will flee. We already know that these street racing incidents are disregard for the public safety in general and will use our roadways as a weapon. And what we're seeing is that this gives us the opportunity to really push forward a strategy that actually should increase our safety on our roadways, because we're not going to pursue these individuals, and we can work through remedies by enclosing the vehicle, by closure on the vehicle through a civil process in our municipal court. During the process, I worked very closely with our city prosecutor, our city judge, and our city attorney in putting together the ordinance. We met on the processes. We have met on the actual ordinance itself. I've had discussions with the judge about concerns that she may have on how we would, enforce this process. The focus on this is really remedial. It's about remedy. It's about providing a remedy that is equitable under the law, but not punitive. So the focus here is the closure of the vehicle, and that's to actually affect what the actual element that is being used on our public roadways to endanger the safety of our residents and our business community, and quite honestly, anyone that travels through the city. So what this ordinance does is really focuses on our street racing type activities, right? Our conducting donuts in the roadway, drifting, illegal street racing, utilizing our motor vehicles for power slides. And then it focuses on already identified statutory provisions within the state statutes. Careless driving being probably the least offensive of an offense that could qualify under this, but the focus of the careless driving and of the trespassing are really focused on the acts that individuals engage in support of street racing and/or eluding the police. So while they are low-level offenses, the purpose of including them in the ordinance is really as an agent to have a method of enforcement when they're utilized in conjunction with street racing as a primary focus, right? And that's that obstruction of the highways where we have seen individuals slow down and work in a group to block highway traffic so that an individual or two individuals or multiple individuals can race down the highway and open up enough of a pathway to provide that opportunity. The same thing with the reckless driving. It's utilized in a way to detract officers. So when we find locations where they are gathered, trespassing on our business properties, large parking lots. AutoZone is one of the locations that we've seen multiple occasions where they've gathered. It gives us that opportunity to use this ordinance when it's engaged with and in association with street racing. It provides the opportunity for us when they're utilizing their vehicles to block traffic as well as detract officers, so pull resources away from the group by fleeing and driving recklessly and pulling the resources that we would need to actually interdict in the racing. So those are the reasons that those particular lower level pieces of the statute are kind of drawn into the process. It's used in conjunction with the street racing. And then eluding. Quite frankly, we've seen tremendous numbers of eluding incidents in the city. It's probably one of the most dangerous circumstances that you can see out here. Even in the street racing incidents, the group usually works together to try to provide some level of open roadway for these races to occur. When we have these individuals eluding law enforcement, there is zero regard for the public safety. They don't have open roadways. They don't have blocked traffic. They don't have people trying to conform and allow for open roadways that can be utilized. This is a flat out flight from the officer, and it creates tremendous risk to the public. So this ordinance is on its first reading. On the 13th, we put it forward for kind of a discussion item. I was instructed to bring it back for a first reading, and today is that day. I think the ordinance is very supportive of the process that we're looking for. I think we've done a pretty good job with bringing all the parties together to really bring the people that are going to be affecting this ordinance together so that we're working on the same page. And I think the ordinance is written in a way that will provide the resources and the tools to the court that are going to be necessary to remedy the circumstances as they become evident within the community. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on this particular ordinance.
Councilmember Kondo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Deputy Chief, just a question. Clearly a lot of our ward meetings, we hear about speeding. Would speeding fit underneath any of these categories, whether it's reckless or careless driving?
So in direct comparison, yes, it would. In intent of the application of the ordinance, just generally speeding, this isn't an ordinance to truly address just a speeding driver that's driving through the streets, right? If that speeding driver was involved in street racing, if that speeding driver was involved in ancillary conduct related to street racing, yes, it would be something we would like to use the ordinance for. It's not really applicable to the regular speeding offender on the streets of Northglenn. And we really, as we tried to craft this, we wanted to keep it narrow enough to focus on our true problem. While speeding is an absolute public safety issue, it's not the level of public safety issue that street racing is, right? It's not the level of public safety issue that eluding the police is, driving at very high rates of speed, going through traffic signals, even driving the wrong way on the roadways. We're seeing that. It's not that level. And what we want to try to make sure we do is we keep it narrowly focused enough that it is a tool for that type of an offense. We don't want to get it to the point where we're utilizing it in a way that it wasn't intended.
Councilmember Lukman-Hiramasa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't really have a question. I just want to make a statement that, this moving towards intelligence-led policing is so important. And that collaboration, again, that's a common theme. But this is definitely something that I've heard from my constituents. I'm sure everybody has from theirs as well. And I have almost been hit by one of those speeders with my infant granddaughter in the car. So, we think, oh, it's just young people having fun, but they don't realize the potential threat to other people's lives and theirs as well. So nipping this in the bud is important. And I believe this is something that's been missing, just because if you think about where to hit them where it hurts, I guess, so to say, taking away their cars is something I think that maybe can actually make a difference in stopping some of this, because they put a lot of money into those cars to make them look cool, to make them whatever, go faster. I don't know all the technical terms. be noisier, so it's cooler as they go by. So I think this is an important step in, helping to stop that. And at the same time, maybe, there's more resolution. I believe there's a lot of attempts to help them understand what's going on, so to speak. So I just want to say I appreciate this. I think this is important. It's an important step forward.
Thank you.
Nip this in the bud. Thank you.
And it's the one piece that I really love about the ordinance is it really focuses on the instrument that's being used to truly endanger the public. It's a focus on the vehicle itself.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief. I don't see any more hands. I appreciate the presentation tonight. Thank you. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote. NCB 1987 on first reading passes unanimously.
CB 1988. Joanna, can you read the title, please?
I might be able to.
I know. Get some water first.
A bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 4 of the Northglenn Municipal Code by the addition of a new Article 3 entitled Prohibited Residency of Sex Offenders.
Move for approval. Second. All right, Deputy Chief is still with us. Thank you very much.
Again, good evening, Madam Mayor and Council members. This was a discussion item back in March. We brought this forward in March of 2022 as a concept to address the significant concerns of protecting places where children tend to congregate, right? During that meeting, we were discussing distances and how much distance could we utilize within the parameters of the ordinance that would provide us with significant protection for our locations where children congregate, but still provided enough areas of residence within the city of Northglenn to provide defensibility against any kind of challenge to the ordinance. It's been clear that if we elected too much of the land within the city of Northglenn, that it could be subject to challenge, and we wanted to try to craft an ordinance that was responsive to what it truly was. The need was to protect the areas that children congregate, but still provided ample resources for individuals that fell into this category. So our initial presentation had distances of anywhere from 500 to 1,000 feet to 1,500 feet. We came back with an interactive map a couple of weeks ago that provided distances at 250-foot increments. And as we presented that, it kind of became really obvious that 500 and 750 feet were the kind of sweet spots within the ordinance. We looked at 500 feet for residents within parks, playgrounds, school bus stops, but we pushed that distance to 750 feet in and around schools, primarily school locations. So that provided us a little bit more room away from our primary location that children congregate, our schools, right? Protect that particular area, but still gave us significant protection and buffer zone for our school bus stops, our parks, our playgrounds, our open spaces, and our swimming pools that were open to the public. This ordinance pushes forth those particular distances at 500 and 750 feet with those respective locations, right? Schools, 750 feet, all the remaining locations being the parks, the open space, and daycare centers and bus stops being that 750 feet. We think with this ordinance, we kind of strike that sweet spot. We still provide ample area for individual subjects who fall under this ordinance to reside within the city of Northglenn, but we still provide that protection to our most vulnerable citizens, the children of Northglenn, and the places that they congregate. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on this proposed ordinance.
Well, I'm trying to picture, I guess I was kind of hoping we'd see the map, because the map for the discussion night, showing us the overlapping things. So I just wasn't sure what that looked like. But I mean, I'm guessing.
I can provide, well, what I can do is I can describe for you
Yes, that's fine.
what that looked like. I'm sorry, I don't have the map, again, available for us tonight.
That's okay.
But what it did was, the 750 feet, we have 13 schools within the city. It provided a bigger buffer within that area. We did not change the distance from what we presented to you in March. And then again, 2 weeks ago, was that 500 foot around residences and the daycare centers, swimming pools, rec center, and other locations where children congregate. The only piece that really altered from the 2 weeks ago was that public swimming pools, we found more within the city of Northglenn than we originally thought. There were a handful of residential locations that technically had a public pool associated with the apartment complex, right? So that distance was a little bit better identified. It really didn't eliminate a whole lot more space because the pools were already located in residential locations, and kind of eliminated that particular location, but not much outside of that particular building or structure that, you know, was related to the housing for that particular public pool. But it provided, what the mapping provided with the 750-500 was a still a very significant amount of residential properties within Northglenn, but enough that it definitely is restrictive for the city. I would say anywhere from about 60 to 70, maybe 5% of the locations within the city, it reduces that footprint for people to reside.
Any other questions from council? Okay, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1988 on first reading passes unanimously.
All right, we have 3 resolutions tonight. The first one, CR 53. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving an enhanced sales tax incentive program agreement between the city and Prost Brewery Company, LLC.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, Debbie Tuttle is here to provide a summary of this item.
So as you have in your memorandum there, the STIP, the Enhanced Sales Tax Incentive, is in compliance with the provisions of Article 12, Chapter 5 of the Municipal Code. The city would provide a 75% share back of the 3% retail sales tax generated by the beer garden over the next 10 years, not to exceed $1,174,413, or whichever is met first. So if they meet that before the 10 years, which I think they will, then that would be the end. So if they met it at 7, that would be the end of the incentive. Any questions?
Nope. Thank you. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Oh, sorry. Councilmember Kondo.
Yes, I'm sorry, and I may have neglected to ask this question. Is it, when you talk about sales, are we talking about retail and wholesale sales?
No, only the retail is what we can take advantage of for the STIP. So it can only be the retail sales at the beer garden. The wholesale for the brewery itself, we cannot use, it doesn't produce sales tax.
Okay, understand. And I know that you spoke earlier, and I don't know if you could speak on behalf of the CEO, but you talked about your revenue. Can you just give us a sense of the breakout between wholesale and retail sales, just for my professional knowledge?
Absolutely. We expect there to be roughly 5 million, because they're really in beer garden sales and retail sales. The wholesale side of the business, we're expecting 7 million plus in annual sales once we get up to really up to our production level. It'll take a few years to get there.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And in your memo, it does identify that sales taxes over the 10 years is estimated at 52 million. So the investment by Northglenn, the return on investment, again, is we're putting in the 1 million. So it's quite a return on investment for the sales tax produced. And this is only on the 3%, not on the 4%. The 1% is restricted to water, so that we have a 4% sales tax. 1% of that is restricted to water.
Thank you. Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 53 passes unanimously.
CR 54. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving an incentive agreement with Prost Brewery Company, LLC.
Move for approval.
Second.
Debbie Tuttle, Director of Economic Development, is here to provide a summary of this item.
So, in compliance with the municipal code, the city would provide up to $514,800 for the first 12 months of operation after opening. So once they open, as I said, they were anticipating July of next year. The city would rebate 100% of the city's 3% use tax based on $11,846,279 equipment investment. And that amount would not exceed $355,388. The city shall abate 50% of the city's 3% use tax on construction materials based on the $9,120,970 valuation, and that would not exceed $136,814. And the city would forego 50% of their city collected fee for the commercial electric permit fees not to exceed $5,365. And the city would forego the construction meter fee for $58. And the city would forego 30% of the city collected fee for the plumbing and HVAC permit fees not to exceed $10,575. And the city shall abate 25% of the city collected plan review fees not to exceed $6,600. So as you know, Safe Build is who does all of our permits and construction documents. So that's why we can only take the 30% and the 25% of that.
I don't see any hands, but so I would like to highlight the sentence that was placed in the staff recommendation, because I 100% agree that this is super exciting because we will have synergy, stabilization, and revitalization. So this is just exciting. So please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close the vote, and CR 54 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, CR 114. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving addendum number 1 to the professional services agreement between the City of Northglenn and Providence Infrastructure Consultants for engineering services for the wastewater treatment plant odor mitigation project.
Move for approval.
Second. All right, and Kisselman, our Director of Public Works, is here to provide a summary of this item.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Another exciting project, wastewater odor mitigation.
We will cheer for this one too. I promise.
Very good. So we contemplated this when we put in the design for the lift station and the force main project, and we kind of ran this project parallel with oxygen injection and ferric acid injection, along with the biofilter. And we originally thought that the oxygen injection would be the way we were going to go, but after we did our pilot study with the ferric acid, it really turns out that the ferric acid completes and does a much better job with the odor mitigation. So again, these projects are not, the lift station's out on Irma, the force main goes from Irma to our city limit. This is actually at the wastewater plant, where the ferric acid injection will be, and then the biofilter will be a part of where the Headworks building was in 2016, 18, somewhere around there. So this is from an addendum to Providence's contract to go ahead and do the design for the ferric acid and the biofilter, and then create the construction documents and prepare for bid and get all that stuff ready so we can proceed. And the amount is $169,629 with a addendum of $66,527. And this is within the budget that we still have in the project.
Councilmember Kondo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to put one and one together from the tour. So you did have, I believe, the building where you had some temporary sort of electric-powered odor reduction.
That's the ionization.
The
So that's-
ionization?
Yeah, that's the Headworks building
The
itself.
Headworks building, correct.
Yes,
So if you're going to do the ferric acid injection, will that help, hopefully, lower the use of the electrical power and things like that you might have to do in the ionization of the ventilation system?
I think the ionization is a little bit separate because the ionization does the H2S gas inside of the Headworks building and then reduces it inside that building and then kind of puffs it out the top.
Yep.
So the ferric injection will actually be, kind of at the road fence line area into the pipe. It will, the ferric acid will be injected into the pipe before it ever reaches the Headworks building. And then the biofilter will be, if you can imagine, just outside of that, to the west of the Headworks building on that structure that you saw out there. That's where the biofilter will be.
Okay. So in essence, what you're trying to do is really mitigate or lower the amount of aroma that potentially could drift over towards Thornton residents. That's what this is going to achieve.
Further reduction, yes. The building of the lift station, the new force main, the ferric, the biofilter, the existing Headworks building, all reduction odor elements.
And I use the word aroma euphemistically. It was memorable. Thank you.
Thank you. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 114 passes unanimously.
I promised we would cheer.
Yeah, less aroma, more cowbell, less aroma.
Okay, 2 discussion items tonight. The first one is our revised employee volunteer program policy. Tamara Dixon, our Director of Human Resources, is here. Hello.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I am here this evening to provide you with an updated employee volunteer program policy for your consideration. So as a refresher for some, new information for others, we came before you in April of this year to suggest the addition of this policy as part of our overall employee handbook revisions. At that time, council had some good feedback for us, and so the policy you have before you this evening is inclusive of that feedback. Just want to reiterate why we're asking for this program for our employees. If we look at the city's new employee vision, part of that states that we want to provide work-life balance for our employees. And we believe having the ability to spend time volunteering gives our employees some of that balance. It also gives us a sense of purpose and really builds that community, especially when we're volunteering for city-sponsored events. There is research that shows when employees are able to have that balance, they come to work and they're more productive and they're more engaged. So that helps us. It provides a competitive recruiting advantage and really helps us get to being that employer of choice that we are striving to be. Before I get to this slide, it was really interesting. I sat on a webinar this afternoon, and it was about state and local workforce trends. And I apologize I wasn't able to make copies of this, but this slide talks about what organizations across the country are doing to encourage employee retention and development. And one of the things at the top of the list is providing volunteer programs for employees. So I was happy to see that what we're suggesting is really something that's being looked at nationwide. I did ask HR departments in our Denver metro area, what are you guys doing? Anybody else providing these types of programs? And these are the answers I did get back. And as you see, the hours allotted range from 8 to 16 and in between. And of those I spoke to, they say that their programs are really successful. One of the other pieces of feedback we received from council is that there did not appear to be accountability attached to our policy. So we drafted this volunteer acknowledgement form. Any employee that chooses to utilize the program would have to get this form signed off by the director or sponsor of the volunteer organization. The form would then go back to their supervisor or manager. Those forms then come to Human Resources. And this also allows us to track the number of hours that our employees are using annually for the program. With the last iteration of the policy, City Manager Guyer did provide the approximate cost, with us paring it down to 8 hours versus the 16 we originally came with. That changes that cost to approximately $110,000 per year. And this is if every employee chooses to volunteer for those 8 hours annually. And then we also provided an example of one employee whose hourly rate is $37.63. That would be a total cost of just over $301 for that employee being out in the community serving for that one day. So short and to the point, I do believe that the policy you have before you this evening is inclusive of council's feedback. But as always, I certainly am open to further questions or feedback that you may have at this time.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolford? Thank you, Madam Mayor. I really appreciate this presentation. I like the accountability form so that we're able to better keep track of where our employees are volunteering, how many hours. I think that that'll really give us some good data as we're moving forward with the program in the future. My one question, and I apologize, Tamara, I wasn't here for your first conversation with council on this topic, but is there any sort of guardrails around where an employee can volunteer? Like, is it just within the city of Northglenn? Does it have to, does it just have to be in the metro area? Does the organization have to serve Northglenn residents? Can you tell me more about that, please?
Sure. So we did not put guardrails in terms of the organizations based on feedback from our city attorney. We didn't really want to be that detailed and say you can volunteer here and you can't here. So what we wrote the policy to include city-sponsored events or a nonprofit organization of your choice. And that could be your child's school. So we really didn't want to be too specific in where an employee could volunteer.
Okay, thank you for that context.
Sure.
Councilmember Goff?
Okay, so my question is, how would you decide that it's a successful program? Are you looking at a certain percentage of staff, or, just what do you have in mind?
I think based on the emails we get from Diana in terms of the need for volunteers for city-sponsored events, that's one huge indicator of success. And then the number of hours that are utilized based on the number of employees we have. If we get to, let's say, December, if the policy is approved and only 2 employees have utilized it, I don't think either we're not marketing it well enough, or employees don't understand it, or we may have to communicate it differently.
Right, thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Kondo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So first a statement, I think this is great. I remember Google kind of doing a similar sort of thing, and they had 20 hours per annum. I'm not trying to influence the amount of hours, but going back to the guardrail issue, did we consider conflict of interest, whether, if, say, somebody decides, okay, I'm going to volunteer time, but I'm doing that to look after my aged mother or something like that? Is that, how do we make sure that, there's, or maybe we don't want to go there?
Well, there are guardrails in that it has to be a nonprofit.
Okay.
So there are guardrails, but what we had to avoid is frankly choosing among nonprofits and saying one provides a certain value to the community and another doesn't.
Okay.
Because that would be arguably content-based and we'd run afoul of the First Amendment. But there is an important guardrail that it does have to be nonprofit.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolford? Thank you, Madam Mayor. Corey, you may know this. Isn't there already a state statute that allows for parents to take time off to either volunteer or show up for a child's school events?
There are state statutes that authorize leave. This is actually the volunteer piece.
Okay, all right. And then, again, because I wasn't a part of the initial conversation, I apologize if I'm making you rehash anything. Why did we settle on 8 hours versus 16? Okay. All right. Never mind. Opening a can of worms. All right.
We hope in the future to expand.
Okay.
If I
Okay,
can
just
interject, I think the sense and direction I got was 16 hours appeared to be a lot. So if we reduced it to 8 and started with 8, and then using the data, bring information back to council, that we can do that. Certainly if council wanted to entertain increasing it to 16 hours, staff would not be opposed to that. But we want to make sure that we're meeting your desired level of accountability, coupled with the intent of the program. So we did present 16 hours, based on the data that Tamara presented, which is more data and information than we presented on the initial onset of the program. So I think that that's helpful. We can go either way. Our ask today is 8 hours. And certainly if, we see great utilization of the program, we can bring back a recommended increase next year of 16.
Okay. I mean, I'm a big fan of 16, especially with the new accountability form that very clearly and transparently lays out where people are spending their time and what they're doing. But if y'all have already had the conversation and made a decision, I'm not going to upset the apple cart.
The biggest question was what was the cost?
Okay.
And so now we know.
Okay.
So, I'm really interested in Arvada's plan, the director's discretion with no time cap.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. And I did not ask too many questions on that, but I could go back and speak with our HR director. I don't know if that means more employees use it versus not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in how many of our staff use it. I really hope it's a utilized program. When I looked at, first of all, I love your slides. They're different and unique, and they catch my eye because they're not the same as all the rest.
Thank you.
The adds to work-life balance, I really, you mentioned schools, but that's my thing, right? So I really encourage parents to use volunteer hours in their child's classroom. That is work-life balance, but that is also, it means so much to your kids.
It also draws those kids, even though they're young, to the public sector. I was able to volunteer when my daughter was a 5th grader, and I did a whole presentation on HR for 5th graders, and she still talks about that to this day. So.
Yeah, it's just really special, and I don't know how many schools have it. We have a Watchdogs program at my school, so it's a special program for dads that volunteer, and it's so cool. So all schools should have it, but if they don't have a Watchdog program, I just want to encourage dads to get in there because statistics show that moms feel more comfortable and dads don't know what to do when they get there. And so our program gives them all sorts of stuff.
It's wonderful.
So yeah, I think that's a great way to do it. I mean, there's obviously lots of organizations to choose from, but I think that's, just put another plug out.
Yes.
Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On that same note of having dads participate, my dad was always there to teach the art classes when we didn't have art classes at our school, and to be there at go to the zoo, go to the museums, and he was the only dad there most of the time. So those are great memories, and everybody wanted to be with Jay and Jay's dad because it was cool having a dad there. So
Awesome.
I think that's great memories you'll be able to make for the employees. And even nonprofits, like my dad's also a co-founder of a nonprofit, Chicano Humanities Arts Council, and now I was on 9 News promoting them, a few weeks ago. So it's like we might plant that seed of serving in, nonprofit organizations and, serving in great needs. So I encourage this program so much because I put in so many hours, doing stuff for Chalk. So I think that we're on to something really good here, and I'm proud we're getting this done.
Thank you.
I don't see any more questions. So I think we're good. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Please open the vote.
This is actually a
This isn't a
discussion
vote.
item.
Sorry, I'm like, let's
Yeah.
just vote.
So just
Vote away.
we will bring it back for a vote on
You're
July
right.
Okay.
11th.
I was in. I was all in. I was ready to vote and then cheer. Okay, that's our new standard. Okay, discussion item number 2, Kent is back. Irma Drive and Malley Drive vehicular and pedestrian safety.
Good evening again. So we've heard a few times around here about Irma and Malley. It's been brought up, and so we had a meeting. First, we did a full-blown kind of engineering study on this area. We did traffic counts. We did photometric analysis on the lighting. That we just got those results back yesterday. It does indicate that we could use another light, but we've spoken about doing that lighting study proposed in 2023. We also looked at observations. We did the retroreflectivity on the stop signs. So, we did pretty much anything that we could do to take a look at that intersection to see what was happening. I actually have a quick video, if I can show you, and everybody can visually see what's happening at the intersection. If I can remember Bob's directions.
It's underneath.
Who's there?
There you go.
Okay.
Sure.
So you can see that the issue isn't that people are like just blowing through the stop sign. The issue is people come to the stop sign, they creep up, and they continue to go. And so we have over 40 minutes of this delightful video. And it just continues. So, and this was taken during drop off from the school. So this is at, one of the busiest times where they just continue to kind of go through the intersection. Our observations didn't show that there was a whole bunch of pedestrian traffic around there. The school, because it's a pickup school, there's not a lot of children that, really utilize these crosswalks for safety. So again, what can we do from an engineering perspective to curb some of this behavior? There's studies that show that the LED stop signs really are not effective. The only thing that would be foolproof would be a signalized intersection. There's no warrants for this. There's only about 3,000 cars that travel this intersection a day. You'll see the other proposed kind of ideas that we went through in attachment number 1. The one we kind of thought would be the best deterrent would be a raised crosswalk. And that would be, where you see those two currently, elevate those to more of a speed hump type deal. And then stripe those and make that all three-way. So the driver kind of gets penalized, to traverse the speed hump to get through the intersection. So will it 100% stop everybody, make everybody great citizens and stopping at the stop sign? Probably not. But will it prevent a lot of this behavior? It might.
So can I ask you a question?
You can.
Because, thank you. We hear the phrase sometimes, like, you're not going to do anything until someone gets, right? And so I have a school on Garrison Street. There's no reason that we have a light there, but somebody was killed. So we have a light there. So when you say this doesn't warrant a stoplight, can you describe that?
So stoplights are, they have particular warrants, an amount of traffic, an average speed that comes to those intersections. So there's, out of the manual of uniform traffic and control devices, there's things called warrants. And so we can always override warrants. For example, the signal at the promenade, when we did our engineering analysis, it was not warranted that a signal was put there. But common sense says this is a very busy promenade area and there's a hospital across the street. It's really going to be a good idea if we put a signal here. And we did. But the rules for engineering and the MUTCD and traffic didn't show that it was necessary. So that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about the rules, I guess. But we can always override, or you have the authority to always override the rules and do what you would like.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with our Public Works Director. Because the reason you have the Uniform Manual on Traffic Control Devices and the reason you have warrants is because that follows an engineering standard. And it provides a complete defense to a claim against the city if something bad were to happen. If you install traffic control devices that are not warranted, you have an additional hurdle when you are defending the city. That is, you are not following the accepted engineering standards when you installed that traffic control device. It doesn't mean you won't win the lawsuit in the end, but it does mean you don't have an initial complete defense related to being in accordance with generally accepted standards for engineering.
What is the speed limit on that street going this way?
25. Thank you, Lori.
Councilmember Kondo?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just think to myself, with rising gas prices and the 60-minute segment I saw on how you have this Prius driver in LA saving gobs of money on gas, people are doing now rolling stops to kind of keep the momentum going. I often wonder if that behavior is in part because we have increased gas prices. So my comment, I suppose, is if we were to put these kind of raised speed bumps, I guess, if you will, as you're describing it, Kent, right, along with the crosswalks, at least, that it is an economical sort of solution first step, right, as opposed to maybe some of the more expensive options. And follow-on question, I suppose, is for those people that desire to want to continue to do the rolling stop sort of thing with the speed bump, kind of discourage them from doing that.
Yeah, and you can kind of see in the attachment how the design kind of comes out where the stop bar is clearly now behind the speed hump. And so you're stopping and then you're progressing through the speed hump or raised crosswalk. And especially from Malley onto Irma, you know, you're traversing two of those. So we know speed humps have worked, you know, because they're on Claude. They're not the ultimate defense, but in this particular instance, it's a really difficult thing to do. So, you know, do you put an engineering method out here to try to help it, or you enforce it? And I think, you know, Deputy Chief earlier was talking about, you know, the nuisance stuff. You know, they did go out and do in the month of March, and they did write 22 citations for this area. But is that the best use of their time? I mean, so this is kind of where we're at.
Can we do these speed humps and the flashing sign?
I just don't stand behind the flashy the signs, the LED
I like how you
stop
call them
signs.
LED.
LED
That was
signs,
very
yes. And then you can see on the final page is just kind of, you know, we went off of what the speed humps cost us or cost a couple years ago. And then, of course, if we do this, we have to, you know, redo all the ADA ramps and make everything ADA compliant. So the price tag kind of goes up. But again, this will be a bid project, so we'll hope for favorable bids if we proceed. We do have $250,000 budgeted in our traffic calming budget. So this is still, this is an additional ask for funding.
Okay. Councilmember Goff?
Thank you. At our Ward 3 meeting on Saturday, this kind of thing came up in the questions and discussion. And one of the residents asked about those circles or roundabouts or whatever they're called. And I didn't see this on the list at all. So I'm just wondering, did you look at that? Because
We did, and you can see in this instance, you can see the driveways on the photo, and the rotary just wouldn't work in this instance. So we did, we put on our thinking caps and we went round and round with what kind of alternatives we could present and
Yeah, and I just have to say, speed bumps or flashing lights or stop, I mean, if the people who get familiar with a route just kind of do what they want to do.
That's right.
They figure it's okay because they've never had an accident, they just keep doing it.
Yeah, and there was, I believe in the last 3 years, it may be somewhere in the information, there was like 10 accidents in this area, and not all of those were, you know, fewer rear enders, some were side swipes, so, you know, not a high accident area either, but it's been raised to an issue, so we're here presenting.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I feel like you've already answered my question, Kent, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. Is this like outside of putting up a traffic signal, which I hear you, Corey, we can't do? Is this the most aggressive thing we can do with this?
This is.
All right. You're not going to jump on the bandwagon from a couple of years of like painting 3D images on, we can't get like a 3D black hole that.
That would be hilarious. That would be funny.
I had to ask, okay.
Accidents may increase. Or pedestrian traffic would increase, one of those.
Yeah. Councilmember Whitkovich.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm kind of struggling with this one because this behavior happens all across the city. Another example is Marion and Leroy. It's almost the exact same intersection. Same thing happens all the time. That one's right by a school. So I don't know. I'm kind of struggling with wanting to approve this because this is just one area and it's everywhere. So we do this, then maybe we have residents who elevate it to an issue, and so then we're looking at it everywhere. So I'm just not so sure that I'm on board with this one.
So I have a question because you're right, totally. And so I don't know, have we done, I mean, you have done traffic calming, like presentations, right? Like these are all the options we have. But maybe I'm wrong. It does seem like they are in reaction to concerning areas. Have we done a full citywide study of all of our high accidents, high trouble zones, like?
No, I mean, the highest accident data is at our major intersections. So we would need to, filter that out to dive down into the residential areas. And, building the traffic calming policy, which we've really only had for the last, 3 or 4 years, and then modified it, a year and a half ago. So it's still in its infancy, and the no need for speed has been introduced. So again, as far as traffic calming, I'm really, and I've said it a few times up here, I'm really hopeful that the Connect Northglenn and the grant that we received, and when we finally start putting paint on the road and reducing the lanes in these areas like Fox Run Parkway, Irma, we have the crossing that just came up today about the, crossing there at the JC ball fields. We have the flashing stop signs or the flashing lights, to get that intersection done. So there's work that and groundwork that we've already laid out to do these things. It's just getting them implemented and then taking a look back, in which we have proposed in 2023 doing our master transportation study, because we've been putting that off for a few years because of all these things that we are in fact doing.
Yeah,
the traffic signal lights, all these things are going to impact resident and vehicle behavior, but we just have to get them on the road.
Right.
And then I think we can step back in maybe 2024, 2025 and see, well, where is our program at? Where are we at with traffic calming? What have we seen that's worked and improved? Because again, right now we're just doing temporary areas with these chicanes and the rotaries, as Councilmember Goff, alluded to. So again, we're throwing everything that we have at traffic calming right now. And so it's really just a matter of time to see what is the most effective.
Well, and I'm just wondering how we're studying it, because I was thinking, I don't drive Melody hardly at all. And I happened to be doing it, and all I could think of was a resident that we have. And I thought, she's not wrong. It is very easy to go super fast. But this is wide open. Wide open. I'm just gonna go flying down here. And to go that slow on that road took intentionality. And so that sort of changing of the paint, I could see as, at least personally, I had to really focus.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
And secretly, well, it's not a secret, but we're getting smarter. We're, instead of just buying the thing that your speed is, and it flashes 25, we're spending an extra, $1,500, and now that's a data collection machine too.
Right.
So now we can look at that data over not just a 7-day period in the month of, X and say, okay, for this period, it was this. Well, what is that over a year? What is that over 6 months? So we're beginning to again, spend that extra money and install those in high traffic areas or areas of concern. And then we'll be collecting that data and the data at our intersections where we can watch them live and we can do traffic counts instantly and find out what's going on at all of our intersections. So again, the future's bright and we have a lot of data that we're going to be collecting. And, I'm very excited about that. But back to your original question, do we study all the intersections? No, we have not.
Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too struggle with what is the resolution here, because I know there is issues with speeding on Irma, and I hear it from my constituents, friends that live on Irma. I hear it. I know that taking a left turn and a right turn there, you can. I mean, it's just the behavior of the drivers. Really, it's not. I don't think it's the intersection itself. As you know, like you said, it's happening. Councilmember Wikovich said it's happening all over. I mean, it's in my ward. I walked that same street coming from middle school, from Northeast, back when the STEM school was Northeast Middle School, and I don't know. I would like to see it more of it. If this is an area where we're really targeting, I'd rather it be closer towards Malley Drive Elementary. When kids are getting off of school, like those lights that we have where you press the button for the pedestrians to cross, like that. I walked the park today and yesterday, and I utilized those, and they work great. People stop, and it says it's the law, and I think those work very well. I just know people just do not like to stop, and especially if it's a right turn, they treat that like it's like, okay, I don't have to stop. I can just roll through it. Same with the red light. I mean, it's the behavior of the drivers. I know this is what Becky was really pushing, Councilmember Brown. This is one of her things that she wants to do. If she was here, she'd probably, she'd go to bat for it. But I don't really know what. I mean, unfortunately we have had, and this is in the past, someone drive through someone's house right there, Malley going through that house right there. Someone drove through that house a few years back. So I mean, people do speed. I would love to see traffic calming and everything on Irma and Malley. I don't know if this is the exact way that we solve it. And this, I don't know if it makes it any better or if it makes it any worse. I struggle with this one.
Well, we're not voting, we're just
Okay.
discussing.
I'm just
I figured
getting-
that up.
I'm just-
Councilmember Goff.
Okay.
Councilmember Wikovich really articulated like some of the questions and stuff I had in my mind. I have some hesitation about doing this one specific thing in this spot. But I will say that I live just off Grant, and you mentioned the lines and kind of narrowing. And once those bicycle lanes were painted on there and the parking lines, I have noticed that the speeding has decreased, and I know there are also stop signs added. But I think when people see, like you were saying, Mayor was saying, the wide open space, when people see or feel like they've got all this room, that they do tend to speed more. What I was seeing in this video is certainly illegal behavior. I don't know how dangerous it is. I mean, that happens everywhere. Honestly, there are probably times that I've done that, just because you don't see any. You just feel like it's safe to do.
10 accidents in 2 years.
Is it? I thought you said 3, but I don't know. I don't know.
That's
Yeah,
significant.
yeah. Well, I think because of hearing about this plan and talking about things that are coming in the future, I guess I almost want to see what's, like some of these things, more of these things implemented before we can, make a decision. Although now, looking at this, they do have the parking lanes and bicycle lanes, it looks like, marked on it.
Yeah, so just maybe a suggestion, just because the price tag is rather large. And so this is one idea that I just kind of thought of, again, we've talked about the narrowing of the lanes. So it is possible that maybe we can do some, let's just call it robust striping. And we try that, and because there's nothing really on Malley, and maybe we paint, a bike lane on Malley, and we don't do it for the whole length of Malley, we do it for maybe 300 feet. We, obviously the ones on Irma are there. Maybe we add an additional signage ahead of this that says stop ahead. Maybe we paint the word stop on the street, and maybe we kind of treat this as a trial run, kind of like the delineators and the rotaries and the things that we've been trying. And maybe we do observations again, and we look at this again in a few months when school starts back up again and see if there's any effectiveness. Again, this was done by Jason Hensel, our utilities manager, who has the drone. So to go out here and put the drone up for 35 or 40 minutes is no big deal. And we can, again, we have this to compare to, and we can do what we can do kind of in-house for low cost, and then do some observations again in a few months when school starts back up, if that would be something to consider.
Kent, you also have the school zone assessment for Malley.
You're right,
That's
and yeah, the school zone assessment for
So
Malley will be
that's the
completed
other
this year,
thing.
and then the construction for that will be done in 2023, so we have that.
So kind of piggybacking on what you just said, though, is that it does kind of make sense to use this intersection as a trial for a strategy we haven't used in the city before. So if we're going to be assessing the effectiveness of all these different strategies, it kind of makes sense because this is not a speeding issue. So adding a bike lane to me isn't going to tell me to stop. This is a stopping issue, which is a whole different concern than some of the other roadways we have. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. And as Councilmember Jaramillo pointed out, Councilmember Brown would be strongly advocating for it, is that we give it a try here. I think my other question is I'd like us to be assessing some of this. And I'd like us to be, I don't even care if it's a survey to the community. What is your least favorite intersection? I don't know. Just to try to get more input instead of just,
Input about the
the safety
experiment,
of our roads, and then also do some sort of assessment of them, because we listen to the squeaky wheels. And so, Councilmember Whitkovich, when you were talking, I was like, this is one intersection, but the Village Green was one fence. Like, we tend to do that in a one, because I'd like to fix all the fences, but we couldn't do that, right? We had to fix the one. And so that's kind of, I don't know, almost the game that we end up sometimes playing. So I do support giving it a try here. I just want to ask for more assessment. It sounds like you're doing a lot. I love the new data collection on the whatever signs. I think that's a good use of money. But if we're going to have all of these different strategies, let's see which ones work best. I don't know. There's lots of hands up. Councilmember Lukman-Hiramasa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I am going to echo that. I think that it's worthwhile to see how we're going to work these measures, which seems to fall in line with what we're doing with, the no need for speed, right? Doing studies first and then assessing and seeing, collecting the data. What does the data say? So in looking at it from that perspective, I think that it has value to see what does the data say. I understand, as I will echo my other council members, there are places like this, intersections, that all of us hear from our residents that would like something done. But if it's not going to be effective, then we need to be looking at maybe other measures. So I think this is a good tell when those issues come up to take. But I like the idea of some kind of survey. But I was thinking the pedestrian and roadway safety subcommittee or committee that's supposed to happen.
We're bringing that back in July 17th.
Right, so wouldn't that maybe be something that they would be tasked with, is gathering that information from all of the wards, and maybe that can help? I would
it
say
could
that
be. Yeah, I think one of the things that we might want to think about is what's a temporary measure that we could do based on council's direction tonight, which is perhaps what I'm hearing, and I know it hasn't been final direction given to staff is the painting of stop on the streets. Instead of doing this more expensive measure, I think we should have a discussion about what the scope of the transportation long-range plan would look like, because I think that's more of a robust engagement process. And so Kent and I can do some thinking along with staff about what that looks like, bringing Brooke into the conversation, because there's definitely a planning element that ties in naturally because of the work that's been done with Connect Northglenn. And to Kent's earlier comment, we're trying to align all these different tools in our toolbox as well as adding additional tools. So in an effort to be responsive to the residents of this area, I think we could do a temporary measure, come up with a method of evaluation of the temporary measure like we've done with the other traffic calming measures, and then report back to council. But I think more of the robust engagement piece probably needs to be tied into the transportation long-range plan. Those are my initial thoughts.
These are the rubber, right? The
Pardon?
rubber ones, not cement.
No, these would be permanent.
They are-
They'd be permanent, yeah.
I have a suggestion that you're going to hate, because I know I've put it up before, but I know dips. There's no way to speed through or not stop. And I know there's issues with drainage, I believe, but I just think they're highly effective.
Yeah,
Having
the
a
dips
huge
that
one in
we
my
have
neighborhood.
are for drainage, not for
Traffic.
speed reduction.
Awful.
They work.
I know
though.
you hate it,
They
but
do,
I
they
mean-
work, and they're,
They do work.
yeah, they do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually, being an engineer myself, data, having that sort of video, I think, is very powerful. Powerful in two ways. One, if you do a survey, you kind of get some bias, the squeaky wheel bias, because usually you might have a silent majority of people that just do not participate in the survey. So you lose that. Whereas this is indisputable, right? When you see cars going through. And so I would really encourage that maybe as part of our assessment, we do think about considering video surveillance like this.
Councilmember Wikovich.
Oh, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I appreciate what everybody is saying. I just think it's a lot of money, and so I worry about doing it at this one spot when we haven't necessarily prioritized other areas. So that's my only concern. I really like City Manager Geyer's idea about temporary measures. And I totally agree with you, Mayor. We should test it out and see how it works, but I would be more supportive of temporary measures. I just worry that, this is just one spot, and we hear from our residents about other spots, but then there are other residents who don't know that they can elevate something like this, and so maybe their area never gets looked at. So I guess just my concern is about prioritizing where we should be doing this, and I'm all on board for trying temporary measures first.
Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also struggle with having those speed bumps right where people are going to be having their driveways are too. I'm just thinking of that as well. I mean, I know I wouldn't necessarily like that right outside, but where I live. But I am in support of, the robust painting of stop there. I think that's, hopefully it works. I know paint's a lot cheaper than concrete, and maybe we can just do some of the same kind of stuff that we're talking about here with the temporary measures and utilizing just every, like you mentioned, Councilmember Witkovich mentioned was Marion and Leroy. Maybe do the same thing there, and then we all just kind of spread it out instead of $50,000 worth right here.
Again, this is.
We have to utilize these funds, right, for the end of the year. Yeah.
And this is slightly different than traffic calming. Again, we're not calming traffic here because the speed study didn't show that there was any speeding. So this is truly trying to get compliance at an intersection.
This speed study says the 85th percentile was 30.4 miles per hour. Is that,
That study was done under our old policy, so we would need to we would do another speed study. But since we used IRMA as a template and we striped it and we reduced it down per the connection, then that was the measure that we used on IRMA.
okay. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got a number of thoughts, so bear with me, Kent. Couple of things. First is a question. Have we been communicating with residents about this particular project?
This project,
Yes.
we have been
I would say no, not similar to like through our traffic calming policy, the no need for speed. This is an issue that's been brought forward by Councilmember Brown. I know she expressed in the meeting that we had with Councilmember Brown and Jaramillo that she's communicated with residents who have brought concerns to her, but part of the process of moving forward with any type of improvement would be reaching out to those residents in the immediate intersection area and letting them know what the plan is in terms of moving forward.
Okay, because I almost feel like a little, like we're almost putting the cart before the horse here. Like, I think it's very important to get some feedback from our residents that live particularly around that intersection, around, is this a solution that they think would be helpful? Are they opposed to it? Do they not want to have a speed hump, you know, as they're exiting their driveway? I mean, I just think it's important that we have that engagement and we have a real sense as to whether or not they think this is a problem and it's impacting their quality of life versus if this is an issue that a council member brought forward because one resident indicated that it was a problem. I want to understand more deeply what the problem is here. As far as the number of accidents, and there being 10 accidents in the last couple of years, that is concerning to me. I can't imagine having 10 accidents happening right outside of my front door. And so I do want to see us move forward, but I want to see resident engagement and some of that conversation, just making sure that they're good with it and that they have input and feel bought into the solution that we're moving forward with. I absolutely hear the concern that there are issues across the city. I think we all know that there are issues across the city because we hear them from our residents. I want to caution us away from saying that we don't want to solve problems because we don't have a plan, or we don't want to solve problems because they're brought up by one council member, right? Because I think as council members, it's our job to advocate for our residents, and we all do it all the time, right? With everything that we bring to our colleagues and ask for consensus for a conversation on, we're advocating for our residents, and we want to be responsive. So I don't want us to not move forward on addressing a concern because we don't have a full plan yet, right? That full plan will come with some of the traffic planning master project that's going to be coming up in the next year, but I don't want us to wait when we know that there's a problem. Additionally, I think I would be interested in, we've talked about temporary measures, but is there a potential to try some of the temporary speed humps that we tried in other places? Are the ones that we have just not large enough, or
We've used them a few times, and so they're getting kind of destroyed.
worn out?
And they're very costly, and then it takes staff a tremendous amount of time to install those.
Okay.
And so it really becomes cost prohibitive for us to install those temporary measures.
Okay.
And then pull them back out.
Okay. I mean, so when we talk about temporary speed humps or temporary measures right now, what I heard was striping. And that was the only temporary measure that was going to be implemented?
And
I'm
not
sorry,
sure
there
that
were
I
so
used-
many different ideas thrown out that I'm
Right.
not 100% clear what
Did I
were.
use if I used the word temporary,
No,
maybe I
council
shouldn't
did.
have.
Council did.
I think
This is
council
just-
did,
used the
I think
word
Heather did.
more robust striping, and we would just try it and then do observations and see what the effectiveness was. So there's no temporary striping, the word stop on a street, or or temporary putting up a stop ahead sign. We would design it and we would do it.
Okay. All right.
But we can certainly put a new plan together and bring it back, and present.
I mean, I know it's a lot of money, and I think if the residents believe that this is the right direction and they're comfortable with the approach and staff is able to pull it off, I support what the mayor was saying in terms of using this as a case study, because this cannot be the only problematic intersection in our city, and I think data is really important here. And I feel really strongly that, Kent, this is not directed at you, so don't take it as it's directed at you. But I feel like when Meredith and I first came on council, there was a real reluctance to do anything around traffic calming or any sort of mitigation efforts in intersections. And so I feel like we just have a backlog, unfortunately, of work that needs to be done to make our community safer for pedestrians and, bicyclists and drivers alike. And so is it ideal to take one project and move forward? No, not really, but is it a place to start? Yes. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm supportive of the project. I think we should move forward, and I think we should engage our residents.
So if I understand correctly, staff would move forward with holding some type of meeting, talking one-on-one with residents in the immediate area, pick like a geographic location around the intersection, get feedback on the proposed improvements. If something else comes out of that conversation, we would come back to council. Either way, we'd come back to council and say, this is the public engagement, this is what we heard, here's what we're continuing to recommend, or if some other solution comes up or say the residents don't like this proposed solution, we may have to go back to the drawing board, or it may take more time to come up with something else. Regardless, we would come back to council and say, here's the status.
Okay, I have two more hands. Councilmember Walker?
Just real quick, I'm curious about the selection of this intersection, and what concerns me if we move forward on this. What's going to be intersection number 2? Is it whoever up here is going to be the squeakiest wheel, and we get that? Because I can think 3 on Fox Run that we could do right now. And so I'd like to see more data on, excuse me, on the other intersections in the city too. And also, Mr. Corr, I'm going to get in the weeds with you here, because you brought up the codes and what's required, or what did you call them? Not flags, but for what's required at an intersection based on the
Warrants.
warrants. And so I'm curious, we were talking about some other options like hodgepodging, like a painted on stop sign like that. Are we opening ourselves up to litigation if we try something when it warrants doing this and we try something less? Are we opening ourselves up?
What you lose and it depends on the engineering solution, but if it's not something that's consistent with a uniform standard, it creates more risk. Not necessarily a risk that is not tolerable, but it doesn't give us the complete defense. If you do something consistent with a uniform standard, immediately you have that complete defense. So it's not a black and white. There's a lot of gray in there.
Okay, thanks, sir.
And painting the word stop is a MUTCD. That's an approved method.
Councilmember Goff?
Okay, I will say that I'm kind of starting to change my mind a little bit on this. It's a pilot study. I'm looking at this on Google Maps, and the one house, the address is 11540 Irma Drive. It looks, from the map, that their driveway is going to go right out onto this raised crosswalk. So I don't know. I would just want to make sure that they are okay with this, because that is going to impact them every single time they go in and out of their driveway. So, and actually even the house next to it probably as well. So if there's, every step taken to, get their input on it and they're, okay with it, I think I would go forward with this as like a pilot study.
Councilmember Luckman-Hiramasa?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted clarification. So what I'm hearing, that the first thing that is a potential measure is just painting the word stop and maybe like stop. So that's not, or is that? I know we've heard different things versus just putting a raised.
I think where we are, based on where the city manager was paraphrasing, she was doing a very nice job of trying to bring us together. It is almost 10:10. Is that they're going to reach out to residents, which I do agree, especially since Councilmember Goff pointed out the map a little bit, is a vital next step anyway. So because of that, I don't know that we need to continue to discuss ideas or continue to hash out best plans, because the residents could have very strong feelings. And so I think reaching out to them is the actual next step, sharing the proposal, and then circle back with council.
Sounds like a plan to us.
Yes? Yes? Are you okay with that?
Thank you.
So we're saying that we're not going to do anything at all?
Not right now. Well, they are. They are going to reach out to the residents.
Okay.
We're
And
going to
pres-
organize a meeting,
Okay.
and then also have one-on-one conversation with any resident in the area that cannot attend a meeting. So you and Councilmember Brown, we will keep you looped into the next steps, and you'll be part of the public meeting and any conversations we have with residents. So I would say we're adding a step to the process in terms of making sure we engage, which is consistent with other steps that we've taken with the traffic calming policy.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, public invited to be heard. Anyone? No? Okay, moving into, Heather, I did have a question.
Sure.
Just real fast. Are you gonna, maybe you sent an email, do we have actual next steps of what the city is doing with the governor's pools update?
With the governor's pool update?
Uh-huh.
I don't off the top of my head, other than staff is going to be applying for funding, but I can get a greater level of specificity for you.
Absolutely. I knew you were working on it, I just didn't know when you would have news, so that's great. Okay.
Yeah, I'll get that for you.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Section 4.5D of the City of Northglenn Home Rule Charter for legal consultation and advice regarding maybe just two of these.
To adjourn to executive session.
Yes.
Do you have a choice you want me to do?
Yes, I have the two timely ones, which are number
3 and
2, 3 and 2.
Two, okay,
In
so
that
I will
order.
say, so cross out one, or you guys don't know? So,
Yeah,
okay.
3 and 2 in that order.
Potential, I'm going to start again so that this motion is accurate for Joanna. I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Section 4.5D of the City of Northglenn Home Rule Charter for legal consultation and advice regarding potential Justice Center design and construction issues and the city's industrial pretreatment program.
Move to adjourn to executive session.
Second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
That you were like, just do, because I was gonna.
Right.
Like, I'm not.
I'll close that vote, and the motion to adjourn to executive session passes unanimously.
We will adjourn to executive session. Take a break.